Hey there, storytellers and story lovers. This is Harry Fictional Hub. Prepare yourselves for today's incredible narrative. What if Harry claimed the Potter-Black-Slytherin Lordship and used the Blood-Traitor law to seize Malfoy Manor? A quick reminder, your likes, comments, and subscriptions are the fuel that keeps this channel running. Thank you for being awesome. Let's begin this journey together. Chapter 1, Blood and Birthright. Harry Potter stared at the parchment spread across the ancient oak desk, his green eyes wide behind his round spectacles. The soft glow of enchanted lamps in Gringotts' private consultation room cast long shadows across his face. Across from him, Griphook watched with the patient disinterest that only goblins could perfect after centuries of witnessing wizards discover life-altering fortunes. "This can't be right," Harry muttered, running a hand through his perpetually messy black hair. "3 lordships? That's not even possible." Griphook's thin lips stretched into what might have been a smile on a human face. "I assure you, Mr. Potter, our records are meticulous. The House of Potter is yours by birthright. The House of Black comes to you through the will of Sirius Black, properly registered despite ministry interference. And the House of Slytherin." The goblin paused, seeming to savor the moment. "That comes to you by right of conquest." "Conquest? You mean because I defeated Voldemort?" "Precisely. Tom Riddle was the last living heir of Salazar Slytherin. By ancient magical law, when you defeated him in mortal combat, his hereditary magic transferred to you." Griphook slid another document forward. "The Ministry has been reluctant to acknowledge this transfer. However, magic itself has already recognized it." Harry absently touched the lightning scar on his forehead. It hadn't pained him since Voldemort's fall 6 months ago, but sometimes he imagined he could feel a faint pulse beneath it, like distant thunder. "So what does this mean exactly?" Harry asked. 3 titles and some vaults." The goblin's expression sharpened. "It means, Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin, that you now control 3 of the most powerful seats on the Wizengamot, 3 family vaults, numerous properties, and most importantly," Griphook tapped a yellowed parchment with one long finger, "access to ancient family magic that has been dormant for generations." Harry's stomach churned. He'd defeated Voldemort, helped rebuild Hogwarts, testified at Death Eater trials, and was finally looking forward to a normal life. Now this. "I never asked for this," he said quietly. "Few who truly deserve power ever do," replied Griphook. "Nevertheless, there are those who will move quickly to diminish your influence once this becomes known. The old families will not welcome such a concentration of power." Harry thought immediately of the Malfoys. Despite Narcissa's critical lie that had saved his life in the Forbidden Forest, Lucius had escaped Azkaban yet again through legal maneuvering, claiming imperious influence. Draco had received only probation. The family was diminished but intact, and certainly plotting their return to prominence. "Is there anything else I should know?" Harry asked, already overwhelmed. Griphook hesitated, an unusual gesture for a goblin. "There is one matter, a rarely invoked provision of ancient wizarding law. The Blood-Traitor provision." Harry frowned. "That sounds like pure blood nonsense." "Indeed, it originated as a way for ancient families to punish those who betrayed blood allegiances. However, the law itself is neutral in its application." The goblin pulled out another document, this one bound in dark leather. "The Malfoy family has committed documented acts of betrayal against all 3 of your houses. Against the Potters, through direct attempts on your life. Against the Blacks, through Narcissa's sister Bellatrix killing Sirius Black. And against Slytherin's true heir, by Lucius Malfoy betraying your magical predecessor's diary to Ginny Weasley." "What are you saying?" "I am saying, Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin, that you have legal grounds to invoke the Blood-Traitor provision against the Malfoy family. You could claim their primary estate, Malfoy Manor, as compensation." Harry felt a chill run down his spine. "Take their home?" "It would be poetic justice," Griphook noted. "The very manor where you were once held prisoner." Images flashed through Harry's mind, Hermione screaming under Bellatrix's wand, Dobby dying in his arms on the beach, Luna's pale face in the dungeon. He pushed them away, disturbed by the surge of vindictive satisfaction they brought. "I need to think about this," Harry said, gathering the parchments. "And I need to speak with Hermione." Griphook nodded. "Of course. But do not delay too long. Word of your inheritances will spread, and the Malfoys will take measures to protect their interests." As Harry left Gringotts, stepping into the spring sunshine of Diagon Alley, he felt the weight of the documents in his moleskin pouch like a physical burden. People nodded respectfully as he passed, still treating him as the savior of the wizarding world. But Harry's mind was elsewhere, already at the small flat near the ministry where Hermione had been living while working on magical creature legislation. He operated without thinking, appearing in the designated point near her building with a soft crack. The guard wizard at the entrance recognized him immediately. "Mr. Potter." "Go right up, sir. Ms. Granger mentioned you might stop by." Harry found Hermione surrounded by towering stacks of legal books, her hair tied back in a messy bun, quill flying across parchment. She looked up as he entered, her expression immediately shifting from concentration to concern. "Harry? What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." He dropped the Gringotts documents onto her desk, scattering several meticulously organized scrolls. "I need your help figuring out what to do with all this." 30 minutes later, Hermione sat back in her chair, eyes wide. "This is unprecedented. 3 lordships in 1 wizard. It hasn't happened since Merlin himself," Harry finished. "Griphook mentioned that too." Hermione chewed her lower lip thoughtfully. "The political implications alone are staggering. You'll control nearly a quarter of the Wisengamot votes through direct and allied seats." "I don't care about politics, Hermione." She gave him a sharp look. "Well, you should. This is exactly how we change the magical world for the better, from within the system." Harry paced the small office. "And what about this Blood-Traitor thing? It feels wrong to use pure blood laws against them, even if they are the Malfoys." "It's not that simple," Hermione said, already pulling a massive tome from one of her stacks. She flipped through it rapidly. "The provision wasn't originally about blood purity as we understand it today. It was about magical betrayal, actions that directly harmed a family's magic or legacy." She looked up. "The Malfoys have certainly done that to you, multiple times. So you think I should do it? Take their home?" Hermione closed the book. "I think you should consider what you could do with Malfoy Manor. That place has been the headquarters for 2 wizarding wars, a symbol of pure blood supremacy, and a torture chamber." Her voice softened. "It's also built on one of the most powerful magical nexuses in Britain." "What?" "It's why the Malfoys built there in the first place. The manor sits at a convergence point of ley lines, natural magical currents. It amplifies family magic." Hermione's brown eyes held his. "Imagine what you could do if you repurposed that place. A school, perhaps, or a sanctuary for magical creatures. Something to transform its legacy." Harry considered this. "They would fight back. The Malfoys still have influence." "They do," Hermione agreed. "But not as much as you, especially now." She gestured to the inheritance documents. "This isn't about revenge, Harry. It's about responsibility. These inheritances came to you for a reason." Harry sat heavily in the chair opposite her desk. "I wanted a normal life, Hermione." Her smile was gentle but unyielding. "Harry Potter, when have you ever been normal? And honestly, would you even know what to do with normal if you had it?" He couldn't help but laugh, the tension breaking slightly. "Probably not. So what will you do?" Harry thought of Dobby, of Fred, of Remus and Tonks and their orphaned son Teddy. Of all those who had suffered because of families like the Malfoys and their belief in their own superiority. "I'm going to make it right," he said quietly. "All of it. The news broke in the Daily Prophet 3 days later. Potter claims triple lordship. Boy who lived now wizarding world's most powerful lord by Rita Skeeter in an unprecedented magical development. Harry Potter, 18, has claimed lordship over 3 of wizarding Britain's most influential houses, Potter, Black, and, most shockingly, Slytherin. Sources inside Gringotts confirm that all 3 claims have been verified by the deepest magical protocols. It's a power grab, says Ministry official Dolores Umbridge, recently released on probation. Potter has always craved attention and authority. Others disagree. The magic wouldn't have accepted him if he weren't worthy, explains Minerva McGonagall, headmistress of Hogwarts. Mr. Potter has never sought power for its own sake. The young lord himself could not be reached for comment, but insiders suggest he may be preparing for his first Wisengamot session next week, where the new political landscape will certainly face its first test. Draco Malfoy hurled the newspaper into the fireplace of the manor's breakfast room, watching with grim satisfaction as the image of Potter's face blackened and curled in the flames. "This changes nothing," Lucius said coolly from the head of the table, though the tremor in his hand as he lifted his teacup suggested otherwise. "Potter is still an untrained boy playing at politics. He controls 3 votes now, father," Draco countered. 3 ancient houses. "And Granger's been coaching him, don't underestimate her." Narcissa touched her husband's arm gently. "Draco's right, Lucius. We must be cautious. Our position is precarious." The elder Malfoy's jaw tightened. He had avoided Azkaban by the narrowest of margins, his fortune depleted by massive, reparation donations, and ministry bribes. The family name, once opening every door in wizarding Britain, now caused those same doors to close. "Precarious," he repeated, the word bitter on his tongue. "Yes, I suppose that's one way to describe it." An owl tapped at the window. Narcissa rose to retrieve the message, her face paling as she read it. "What is it?" Draco asked. "A summons," she whispered. "From the Department of Magical Law and Historical Provisions. Regarding." She swallowed. "Regarding an invocation of the Blood-Traitor provision against our family. Filed by Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin." The teacup in Lucius's hand shattered. The hearing room in the ministry's lowest level hadn't been used in decades. Dust covered the ancient wooden benches despite hasty cleaning charms, and the magical sconces flickered with uncertain light. At the center stood 3 tables arranged in a triangle, one for the petitioner, one for the respondents, and one for the 5-member Historical Magical Provisions Council, wizards and witches so old they made Dumbledore seem youthful by comparison. Harry sat rigidly at his table, feeling underdressed despite the formal robes Hermione had insisted he wear. She sat beside him, surrounded by reference materials and looking perfectly composed. Across the room, the Malfoys presented a united front, Lucius in severe black robes, Narcissa in elegant midnight blue, and Draco mirroring his father's attire. Their attorney, a sharp-faced witch named Peregrine Yaxley, whispered urgently to Lucius. The central table held 5 ancient wizards and witches, each wearing formal robes in deep purple with silver trim, the colors of magical neutrality. Their chief, Thaddeus Ogden, had been practicing magical law for over a century. "This tribunal is convened to consider the petition of Lord Harry James Potter-Black-Slytherin," Ogden intoned, his voice surprisingly strong, invoking the Blood-Traitor provision against the Malfoy family. Mutters rippled through the small audience. The proceedings had been announced only 24 hours earlier, but the chamber was packed with reporters and ministry officials. "Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin will present his case," Ogden continued, followed by the Malfoy response. "This is not a criminal proceeding but a matter of magical family law, predating even the Wisengamot itself." Harry stood, hands steady despite his racing heart. He'd spent days preparing with Hermione, memorizing precedents and practicing his arguments. "Esteemed counsel," he began, "I invoke this provision not out of malice but in response to 3 documented betrayals against my houses." He raised his wand. "I swear on my magic that my claims are true and offered in good faith." Lumos. His wand tip glowed, confirming his oath. The old wizards nodded approvingly. Harry continued, "Against House Potter, Lucius Malfoy attempted to murder me, the last Potter, when I was 12 years old by slipping me Tom Riddle's diary. This can be verified through pensive testimony." He placed a vial of swirling silver memory on the table. "Against House Black, Bellatrix Lestrange, born Black, murdered Sirius Black, the rightful Lord Black who named me his heir. Narcissa Malfoy, born Black, did nothing to prevent her sister's actions, violating her family obligations." Narcissa's face remained impassive, but her knuckles whitened where they gripped her robes. "Against House Slytherin, Lucius Malfoy betrayed the magical legacy of Salazar Slytherin by using a sacred artifact, the Founder's Diary, as a common weapon, resulting in its destruction." Harry met Lucius's cold gaze directly. 3 betrayals, 3 houses. "By the oldest laws of magical Britain, I claim the primary Malfoy estate as recompense." Lucius Malfoy stood before his attorney could stop him. "This is absurd. Potter is no Lord of Slytherin." "Your objection is noted," said Ogden calmly. "But our preliminary investigations confirm that magic itself has recognized Lord Potter's claim through right of conquest over Tom Riddle, the last confirmed heir of Slytherin. The diary was given to me by the Dark Lord himself." Lucius protested. Harry smiled grimly. "Thank you for confirming that you knowingly received it from Voldemort, and then deliberately passed a dark artifact to an 11-year-old girl." Lucius went pale, realizing his mistake. His attorney pulled him back into his seat with a furious whisper. The hearing continued for hours. Hermione presented meticulous documentation of each betrayal. Yaxley argued that the Blood-Traitor provision was intended for use between pure-blood families, not against them. Harry's pensive memories were viewed, including the chamber confrontation where Lucius had tried to kill him. Finally, Ogden called for closing statements. "This provision exists for one purpose," Harry said, rising once more. "To ensure consequences when a magical family deliberately harms another. The Malfoys have built their power through such betrayals for generations, confident that their wealth would protect them from consequences." He swept his gaze around the chamber. "I don't want their money. I want their legacy, the manner they've used as a base to spread hatred and violence, so I can transform it into something better." Lucius stood for the Malfoy closing argument, having overruled his attorney. "This proceeding is a mockery of traditional wizarding values," he said coldly. "Potter seeks to use our own traditions against us while having no respect for them himself. He is no lord, merely a half-blood with extraordinary luck and powerful friends." The 5 council members conferred in whispers for several long minutes while the chamber held its breath. Finally, Ogden raised his head. "This council finds the petition valid and the evidence compelling. The Blood-Traitor provision is properly invoked." He raised a gnarled wand. "By the authority vested in this council by magic itself, we transfer ownership of Malfoy Manor and its grounds to Lord Harry James Potter-Black-Slytherin, effective immediately." A pulse of golden light emanated from Ogden's wand, washing over both Harry and the Malfoys. Harry felt something shift inside him, a subtle magical change, like a key turning in a lock. "The Malfoy family has 30 days to vacate the property," Ogden continued. "All personal belongings not attached to the estate may be removed. The property's magic will recognize its new master within 24 hours." Narcissa Malfoy let out a soft, wounded sound. Draco's face had gone completely blank, though a muscle jumped in his jaw. But it was Lucius whose reaction sent a chill through the chamber. His face transformed from shock to hatred so pure it seemed to distort his aristocratic features. "You've made an enemy today, Potter," he hissed, too quietly for the council to hear. "One you cannot imagine." Harry met his gaze steadily. "You've been my enemy since I was 11, Lucius. The difference is that now, I'm yours." The next morning's Prophet bore the headline, "Potter seizes Malfoy Manor, ancient law turns tables on pure-blood family." Hermione set the paper aside as she stepped through the wrought iron gates of Malfoy Manor alongside Harry. The gates had recognized him without password or spell, swinging open at his approach, the estate already acknowledging its new master. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, glancing sideways at him. Harry looked up at the looming manor house, its dark windows like watchful eyes. Last time he'd been dragged here as a prisoner. Now he returned as its owner. "Not really," he admitted. "But I need to see it." They walked up the long gravel drive in silence. Spring had brought a riot of color to the immaculate gardens, at odds with Harry's memories of the place. Peacocks still roamed the grounds, their cries echoing strangely. The massive front doors opened at Harry's touch. The entrance hall beyond was cavernous, marble floors gleaming in the light from high windows. Dark portraits lined the walls, their occupants watching with undisguised hostility. "They haven't started packing," Hermione noted, pointing to a silver vase filled with fresh flowers on a side table. "Probably in shock," Harry said. "Or planning their revenge." They moved deeper into the house, tension building in Harry's shoulders as they approached the drawing room where Hermione had been tortured. He paused at its threshold, unable to step inside. Hermione slipped her hand into his. "We don't have to go in there." "No, Harry took a deep breath and stepped forward, pulling Hermione with him. The room had been redecorated. The ornate chandelier that Dobby had dropped was replaced with a smaller one. New carpet covered the floor where Bellatrix had carved slurs into Hermione's arm. But no amount of redecoration could erase what had happened here. "We'll tear it all out," Harry said quietly. "Every floorboard, every wall. This room will become something new." A throat cleared behind them. They turned to find Draco Malfoy standing in the doorway, alone and wandless. "Come to gloat, Potter?" he asked, his voice lacking its usual sneer. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. "Come to see what I'm working with," Harry replied evenly. "You're still welcome to take your personal belongings." Draco laughed hollowly. "How generous of you. Taking our home but letting us keep our clothes." "Your father tried to kill me when I was 12, Harry reminded him. "After giving a possessed diary to an 11-year-old girl. Actions have consequences. So this is justice." Draco gestured around the manor. "Taking a home that's been in my family for 15 generations." Hermione spoke up. "Where was justice when I was tortured on your floor? When Dobby died saving us? When your father helped Voldemort return?" Draco's pale face flushed. "I never want. Father's most dangerous artifacts are there. You should." He hesitated. "You should be careful with them." Harry blinked, surprised by the warning. "Thank you. I'm not doing it for you," Draco said, turning to leave. "But not even you deserve what some of those objects would do to you." He paused in the doorway. "Mother wants to retrieve her garden journals from the conservatory. Will you permit her to visit tomorrow?" "Of course," Harry said. "She saved my life in the forest. I haven't forgotten." After Draco left, Harry and Hermione continued exploring the vast manor, cataloging rooms and making notes. The library alone would take weeks to inventory, its shelves holding thousands of rare volumes. The potions laboratory in the basement was better equipped than Hogwarts. And the family magic room, accessible only to those with Malfoy blood or, now, the manor's master, contained artifacts dating back to the Norman conquest. It was in this room, behind a glass case warded with protection spells, that Harry found something unexpected, a small golden key labeled Nexus Chamber. "Hermione," he called. "Come look at this." She hurried over, eyes widening at the sight. That must lead to the chamber beneath the manor, the one built directly over the ley line convergence. Harry carefully removed the key from its case. As his fingers closed around it, he felt a pulse of magic, ancient, powerful, and somehow familiar. "Let's find out what the Malfoys have been hiding down there," he said. They followed the key's pull through winding corridors and down stone steps, deeper than Harry had imagined the manor went. The air grew thick with magic, making the hairs on their arms stand up. Finally, they reached a circular door of solid silver, etched with runic symbols that shifted and changed as they watched. The key slid into a lock that hadn't been visible until it approached. The door swung open silently, revealing a chamber that took Harry's breath away. The circular room was built entirely of crystal, its walls transparent yet stronger than steel. Through them, they could see currents of magical energy flowing like luminous rivers beneath the earth, converging at the chamber's center where a pedestal of black marble stood. Atop it rested a crystal orb, pulsing with golden light in time with the flowing magic. "This is incredible," Hermione whispered. "I've read about Nexus chambers, but I never thought I'd see one. The Malfoys must have used this to amplify their family magic for centuries." Harry approached the pedestal cautiously. As he drew near, the orb's pulsing quickened, its light growing brighter. When he extended his hand toward it, not quite touching, the light changed from gold to a swirling mixture of red, silver, and green, the colors of his 3 houses. "It recognizes you," Hermione said. "The manor's true magic is acknowledging you as its master." Harry finally placed his palm on the orb. Magic surged up his arm, not painful but overwhelming, like suddenly hearing a symphony after a lifetime of whispers. Images flashed through his mind, the manor as it had been when first built, generations of Malfoys channeling the Nexus power, dark rituals performed during Voldemort's occupancy, and finally, possibilities, what the place could become under his stewardship. When he pulled his hand away, Harry felt different. More connected to the magic around him, more aware of its currents and possibilities. "The manor is yours now," Hermione said softly. "Truly yours." Harry nodded, still processing the connection he'd just established. "And I know exactly what I'm going to do with it." As they climbed back to the upper levels, neither noticed the orb changing color once more after they left, shifting briefly to a deep, ominous purple before returning to its golden glow. Nor did they see the ripple that passed through the magical currents beneath the manor, spreading outward like a stone dropped in a still pond. Miles away, in a hidden chamber beneath an unmarked hill, another orb, this one black as night, pulsed in response. Beside it, an ancient scroll unfurled itself, revealing text that hadn't been read in centuries. "When 3 become 1 and balance is broken, the guardian shall wake from slumber unspoken. Magic itself shall right what is wrong, for no single vessel should hold power too strong." The Wizengamot chamber hummed with tension. Harry sat in the Potter seat, acutely aware of the empty Black and Slytherin seats flanking him, 3 votes under his control, unprecedented in modern magical governance. Across the chamber, the remaining Wizengamot members watched him with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Minister Shacklebolt called the session to order. First item, the formal recognition of Harry James Potter as Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin and his assumption of the corresponding Wizengamot seats. An elderly wizard stood from the Knott family seat. "I object. This concentration of power violates the spirit of the Wizengamot's founding principles." "On what grounds, Lord Knott?" Kingsley asked. "On the grounds that no wizard should control 3 ancestral votes. It's never been done." "Actually," said a cool voice from the visitors' gallery, "there is precedent." Hermione stood, a massive tome open in her hands. In 1421, Roland Peverell held the Peverell, Gryffindor, and Emery seats simultaneously for a period of 7 years. The Wizengamot Charter specifically allows for multiple seat holdings when acquired through legitimate magical inheritance or conquest. Mutters spread through the chamber. Lord Knott's face darkened. "That girl isn't even a member. She has no standing to address this body." "Ms. Granger speaks at my invitation," Kingsley replied firmly. "And her historical reference is accurate, as the court historian confirms." He nodded toward a tiny, ancient witch who gave a trembling nod in return. "The objection is overruled," Kingsley continued. "Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin, please approach to claim your seats." Harry walked to the center of the chamber, feeling every eye upon him. He placed his hand on the ancient marble sphere used for magical confirmation of lineage. It glowed gold, then red for Potter, silver for Black, and green for Slytherin, exactly as the Nexus orb had done. Magic confirms the claim, Kingsley announced. Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin, do you swear to uphold the laws of magical Britain and to use your votes in the interest of our world's well-being? I do so swear, Harry replied, his voice echoing in the silent chamber. And I further pledge to use these unexpected inheritances to help heal the divisions in our society. He turned to face the assembled lords and ladies. I didn't seek this power, but I will use it responsibly, to reform what needs changing and preserve what deserves protection. He returned to his seat amid a mixture of applause and stony silence. The session proceeded with routine matters until Kingsley reached the final agenda item. Last business, Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin has submitted a proposal for the creation of a Magical Integration Institute, to be headquartered at the property formerly known as Malfoy Manor. This announcement caused an immediate uproar. Several lords leapt to their feet, shouting objections. Harry remained seated, calm in the storm he'd deliberately created. When Kingsley finally restored order, Lord Nott spoke again. First he takes the Malfoy estate through an obscure legal provision, and now he wants to turn a pure-blood historical home into some sort of mudblood welcome center. The chamber gasped at the slur. Kingsley's voice turned dangerously quiet. Lord Nott, you are formally censured for that language. One more such comment and you will be removed. Harry stood. The institute I'm proposing would benefit all magical people. It would serve as a transition center for Muggle-born children and their families before they enter our world, a research facility for improving magical integration, and a cultural preservation museum to ensure our traditions aren't lost as our society evolves. You speak of traditions, called out Lady Greengrass, her voice skeptical but not hostile, yet you've shown little regard for them in your actions. I respect worthwhile traditions, Harry replied. But I reject the tradition of blood supremacy that led to 2 devastating wars in my lifetime. The Institute would preserve our history while helping us build a better future. The debate raged for hours. Harry defended his proposal with an eloquence that surprised many who remembered him as an indifferent student. Hermione had helped craft the plan, but the passion behind it was entirely his own. Eventually, Kingsley called for a vote. Harry held his breath as the magical counting began. With his 3 votes and the support of progressive members, the proposal passed by a narrow margin of 4 votes. The Magical Integration Institute is approved, Kingsley announced. Funding will be allocated from the War Reparations Fund, with additional support from the Potter, Black, and Slytherin vaults as Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin has offered. As the session adjourned, Harry found himself surrounded by Wizengamot members wanting to discuss the institute, some supportive, others clearly looking to influence or undermine it. He navigated the conversations carefully, aware that he was now playing a game with rules he was still learning. Across the atrium, a small group of older lords huddled in conversation, casting dark glances in Harry's direction. He's accumulated too much power, Lord Nott muttered. 3 lordships, the Malfoy estate, and now this institute. Something must be done. Patience, Thaddeus, counseled a witch in ancient, formal robes. The old ways have safeguards for exactly this situation. Magic itself corrects imbalances of power. What are you suggesting, Lady Selwyn? The elderly witch smiled thinly. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm merely observing that throughout magical history, when power concentrates too heavily in one vessel, forces arise to restore balance. She gazed at Harry, still fielding questions across the hall. Young Potter may find his inheritance comes with complications. You know something, not pressed. The Selwyns were keepers of the old histories. Lady Selwyn merely inclined her head. Let us simply say that I will not be surprised if Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin soon faces challenges that even his considerable luck cannot overcome. Magic has its own justice. She turned away, ending the conversation with aristocratic finality. Lord Nott watched her go, a calculating gleam in his eye. Perhaps there was no need for direct action against Potter after all. If Lady Selwyn was right, the boy's unprecedented magical inheritance might prove to be his downfall. Harry stood on the balcony of what had been the Malfoy master suite, watching the sunset paint the extensive grounds in shades of gold and crimson. The Malfoys had removed their personal belongings the day before, departing with icy dignity and undisguised hatred. Only Narcissa had shown any other emotion, pausing to look back at the gardens she had tended for decades, a single tear sliding down her cheek. Now the manor felt empty, echoing with possibilities rather than history. Harry had spent the day with a team of curse breakers, removing dark enchantments and malicious traps left behind. Bill Weasley had found no fewer than 7 deadly curses in Lucius's former study alone. "You know they'll keep coming after you," said a voice behind him. Hermione joined him at the balcony, her presence a comfort in the vast, unfamiliar house. "The old families. They see you as a threat to their entire way of life." "I know," Harry replied. "But I didn't start this fight. I'm just finally using the same rules they've used against others for centuries." Hermione rested her elbows on the stone balustrade. The Institute proposal was brilliant. Even they couldn't argue with preserving magical culture while helping newcomers adjust. Harry smiled slightly. "That was mostly your idea. The structure, maybe. The heart of it was yours." She turned to face him. "You're changing, Harry. Growing into something more. Is that good or bad?" "Both, I think. Power changes people, even good people with good intentions." She reached out to touch his hand. "Just don't forget who you are." Harry felt a strange resonance between her words and the surging magic he'd experienced in the Nexus chamber. Since touching the orb, he'd noticed subtle changes: colors seemed brighter, magical signatures more visible, and his own spells coming more easily, as if meeting less resistance. "I won't," he promised, though part of him wondered if that was entirely within his control now. A soft popping sound announced a house elf's arrival. Kreacher bowed low, the locket that had once been Regulus Black's gleaming against his clean tea towel. "Master Harry, Kreacher has finished checking the lower kitchens. 5 nasty traps Kreacher found and disabled." The old elf looked almost cheerful at this dangerous task. Since Harry had claimed the Black Lordship formally, Kreacher had become surprisingly devoted, his century of Black family service transferring to Harry with unexpected enthusiasm. "Thank you, Kreacher. Any word from the goblins about the wardstone inspection?" "Goblins say they come tomorrow, Master Harry. They want much gold for new wards." Harry nodded. "They'll get it. I want this place completely secure before we open the Institute." After Kreacher departed, Hermione gave Harry a searching look. "Are you staying here tonight? Alone in this huge place?" "I need to get used to it," Harry said. "Besides, it's technically mine now. I should start making it feel less." Malfoy. "Well, I'm staying too then," Hermione declared. "I've already picked out a bedroom in the East Wing with a lovely reading nook." Harry didn't argue, grateful for the company. As darkness fell, they walked through the manor, making plans for renovations and repurposing. The drawing room where Hermione had been tortured would become a welcome center for Muggle-born families. Lucius's study would house a library of introductory magical texts. The formal dining room where Voldemort had held court would become a cultural exhibition hall, celebrating both wizarding and Muggle artistic achievements. "It's going to be amazing," Hermione said as they paused in what would become the Institute's main hall. "A true bridge between worlds." Harry nodded, but his attention had been caught by something else, a faint pulsing sensation from beneath their feet, like a distant heartbeat. The Nexus was active tonight, resonating with something he couldn't identify. "Harry?" Hermione touched his arm. "Are you all right? You look strange." He shook himself. "Sorry. Just, feeling the house. It's like it's trying to tell me something." Hermione looked concerned. "Maybe we should have the curse breakers do another sweep tomorrow." "It's not dark magic," Harry assured her. "It's more like He struggled to find the right words. Like the house is waking up. Before Hermione could respond, a Patronus burst into the room, a lynx that spoke with Kingsley Shacklebolt's voice. Harry, there's been an incident. Lucius Malfoy has escaped ministry custody during transfer to Azkaban. 3 Aurors down. Consider yourself a likely target. Security team en route to the manor. The Patronus dissolved, leaving them staring at each other in the suddenly silent hall. So it begins, Harry said quietly. Below them, unnoticed, the Nexus pulsed again, stronger this time, sending ripples through the magical fabric of the estate. And deep beneath an unmarked hill miles away, the black orb glowed with increasing intensity as the ancient scroll unfurled further. First comes ambition, power's deadly seed, then comes the challenge to magical creed. The tripled magic seeks balance anew, as the guardian awakens to render what's due. Chapter 2, Heritage and Burden. Flashes of green light cut through the darkness, narrowly missing Harry as he rolled behind a massive oak desk. The wood splintered as another curse struck it, sending fragments flying across what had once been Lucius Malfoy's study. Protego! Harry shouted, the shield charm erupting from his wand with unexpected force. The magical barrier didn't just block the next incoming spell, it rebounded it, sending his attacker crashing into a bookshelf with a pained grunt. Harry seized the moment, vaulting over the damaged desk and disarming the masked wizard with a silent Expelliarmus. The wand flew into his hand with such speed it nearly broke his fingers. Who sent you? Harry demanded, advancing on the fallen attacker. The man laughed, blood trickling from beneath his silver mask. You've made powerful enemies, Potter. The Dark Lord may be gone, but his faithful remember. Before Harry could respond, the intruder bit down hard on something hidden in his mouth. His body went rigid, then limp, a suicide poison, fast-acting and untraceable. The third such death this week. Harry lowered his wand, frustration and fatigue washing over him. 2 weeks had passed since Lucius Malfoy's escape, and the attacks had grown increasingly bold. This one had managed to breach the manor's outer wards, something that should have been impossible with the goblin-crafted protections now in place. Harry! Hermione's voice echoed from the corridor. She appeared in the doorway, wand drawn, hair wild from sleep. Her eyes widened at the scene. Another one? Same as the others, Harry confirmed, gesturing to the dead assailant. Mask, no dark mark, suicide before questioning. Hermione entered cautiously, waving her wand in complex detection patterns she'd learned from Bill Weasley. No additional traps, she confirmed. But how did he get through the wards? The goblins said they were impenetrable. Apparently not. Harry pushed his glasses up and rubbed the bridge of his nose. The clock on the mantel showed 3 in the morning. I need to contact Kingsley. Can you? I'll secure the room and document everything, Hermione finished, already conjuring magical barriers around the body. Go. Harry squeezed her shoulder gratefully as he passed. Their partnership had evolved into an efficient team over the past weeks, with Hermione handling the legal and research aspects of the Institute's creation while Harry dealt with security and politics. But these nighttime attacks were taking their toll on both of them. As Harry strode through the manor's corridors toward the communication room they'd established, he felt that strange resonance again, the manor's magic responding to his emotions, strengthening around him like an invisible armor. Since claiming the estate, he'd noticed the phenomenon growing stronger each day, as if the house itself were bonding with him. It wasn't just the manor, either. His magic had been changing in subtle but significant ways. In the communication room, a modified Flug connection linked directly to the minister's office. Harry tossed in the powder and called for Kingsley. The minister's face appeared in the green flames almost immediately, alert despite the hour. Another attack? Yes. One intruder got further than the others. Self-eliminated before questioning. Kingsley's expression darkened. That makes 5 in 2 weeks. We're dealing with an organized group, not just Lucius acting alone. Any leads on his location? Nothing concrete. We tracked him to Scotland 3 days ago, but the trail went cold. The minister hesitated. Harry, I'm concerned about these magical fluctuations we're recording around Britain. They seem to be emanating from your location. Harry stiffened. What kind of fluctuations? Power surges along the ley lines, similar to what we recorded after Voldemort's fall but more directed. The Department of Mysteries is monitoring them, but their theories are typically cryptic. I've been experiencing some changes in my magic, Harry admitted. More power, better control. I thought it was just the nexus under the manor amplifying things. Kingsley's eyes narrowed. It might be more than that. The triple lordship is unprecedented in modern times. We don't fully understand the magical implications. Before Harry could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the manor, proximity wards triggering at the northern boundary. I need to go, Harry said quickly. Someone else is trying to breach the perimeter. Kingsley nodded. I'm sending aura reinforcements. Be careful, Harry. Harry extinguished the Floo connection and raced toward the manor's northern wing, the fastest route to where the alarms had triggered. As he ran, he cast his Patronus, the silvery stag galloping ahead to warn Hermione. He reached the grand ballroom with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the northern grounds. Outside, flashes of spellfire illuminated the darkness. 3 figures in dark robes were attacking the perimeter wards, their magic creating rippling distortions in the defensive barriers. Harry didn't hesitate. He blasted open the French doors and charged onto the terrace, magic surging through him with unexpected intensity. Enough, he shouted, his voice carrying farther than it should have. The attacking wizards turned, startled by his sudden appearance. One of them laughed. Look who's come out to play. The Lord of 3 Houses, all alone. Not alone, came Hermione's voice as she emerged from another doorway, flanked by 2 house elves, Creature and Winky, who had joined the manor's staff voluntarily after hearing of the Institute plans. The lead attacker raised his wand. Avada, Harry moved with inhuman speed, his shield charm materializing between the attackers and his friends before the curse could fully form. The spell rebounded in a flash of green light, narrowly missing its caster. What followed wasn't a duel but a demonstration. Harry's spells flew with devastating precision, each movement flowing into the next with a grace he'd never possessed before. A disarming charm followed by a binding hex. A blasting curse that cracked the ground at their feet, staggering the attackers. A summoning charm that yanked one wizard's mask away, revealing a face Harry recognized from Death Eater trials, Selwyn, a minor follower who'd escaped prosecution. Stupefy. Hermione's stunner took down Selwyn while Harry engaged the remaining 2. The tallest attacker conjured a whip of flame that lashed toward Harry's face. Without thinking, Harry responded with a gesture he'd never consciously learned, a circular motion that transformed the fire into a ring of water, which he then froze and shattered, sending ice shards flying back toward his attackers. Both remaining wizards faltered at this display. One turned to flee, disapparating before Harry could stop him. The other dropped to his knees. Mercy, my lord, he pleaded, dropping his wand and pulling off his mask to reveal a young face Harry didn't recognize. I didn't know, didn't understand what we faced. Harry approached cautiously, wand trained on the surrendering wizard. Who sent you? Lord Not, the young man whispered. He said it would be easy, that the Blood-Traitor who stole Malfoy Manor deserved to be taught a lesson. Hermione had secured Selwyn with magical restraints and joined Harry. Not from the Wisengamot. He's behind these attacks. He's gathering the old families, the captured wizard continued, clearly hoping cooperation might save him. Says Potter's accumulation of power threatens the natural order, that something must be done before he becomes too powerful to stop. And Lucius Malfoy? Harry pressed. Is he working with Not? The young wizard's eyes widened. No one works with Malfoy, he works with no one but himself. But they share information. Distant pops announced the arrival of Aurors at the manor's apparition point. Harry kept his wand on the prisoner as Hermione went to guide them to the scene. "You should have killed me," the young wizard said quietly. "Those who oppose you won't show the same restraint." Harry studied him thoughtfully. "What's your name?" "Adrian. Adrian Pusey." "Well, Adrian, unlike Voldemort and his followers, I don't kill people for making mistakes. Even serious ones." Harry gestured toward the approaching Aurors. "Tell them everything you know, and perhaps you'll get leniency." As the Aurors took custody of the prisoners, Harry pulled Kingsley aside. "I need to see the data on these magical fluctuations. If my inheritance is causing problems, I need to understand it." Kingsley nodded grimly. "I'll have the report sent over." "But Harry," he glanced at the scorch marks on the terrace, the shattered ice fragments still melting on the grass, "that spell combination you used. It's not standard aura training, not even advanced defensive magic." "I know," Harry admitted. "I didn't consciously cast it. It just happened." "Be careful with that," Kingsley warned. "Magic responding to will rather than structured spells is rare and potentially dangerous, to you and others." After the Aurors departed with their prisoners, Harry found Hermione in the manor's library, already surrounded by ancient tomes she'd pulled from the Malfoy collection. "I think I've found something," she said without preamble. "About magical inheritance and family powers." Harry dropped into the chair opposite her, exhaustion finally catching up to him. Dawn light was beginning to filter through the tall windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. "According to this," Hermione continued, indicating a leather-bound volume that looked centuries old, "when a wizard inherits multiple family lines, they may gain access to magical abilities unique to those bloodlines. The Potters were known for protective magic and transfiguration innovations. The Blacks excelled in soul magic, not necessarily dark, but dealing." Hermione bit her lower lip, a sure sign she was troubled. "That's the concerning part. Historical records suggest that when magical bloodlines converge too strongly in one person, it can create disruptions. Magic seeks balance. 3 lordships might be more than the natural magical order can accommodate." Harry ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "So what happens? Does the magic just leak out of me?" "Not exactly. It's more like your concentrated magic is resonating with the ley lines, causing harmonic disturbances." She pushed another book toward him, open to a page with elaborate diagrams of magical currents flowing through Britain. "And the nexus under the manor is amplifying everything." "Great," Harry muttered. "So I'm what, magically radioactive now?" Hermione's lips quirked into a half-smile despite the seriousness of the situation. "That's actually not a bad analogy. You're emitting magical energy at frequencies and levels that are affecting the ambient magic around you. Can it be stopped?" "Theoretically. Yes. Practically." She sighed. "I'm not sure. The historical cases are vague on resolutions. We should also prepare for the Institute's opening ceremony tomorrow. The Wisengamot representatives will be watching for any sign of weakness." The reminder of his public responsibilities landed like a weight on Harry's shoulders. Between the attacks, his changing magic, and the Institute preparations, he'd had little time to process everything that had happened since claiming his inheritances. Sometimes he caught himself missing the simplicity of life before, when he was just Harry, not Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin with estates and political power and enemies conspiring in the shadows. As if reading his thoughts, Hermione reached across the table and took his hand. "You're doing the right thing, Harry. Creating something good from all of this." He squeezed her hand gratefully. "I hope so. Sometimes I wonder if I'm any better than them, using these old laws and traditions for my own purposes." "The difference is in the intention," Hermione said firmly. "You're not seeking power for power's sake. You're trying to build something that helps people." Harry nodded, though the doubt lingered. Was he really so different from Lucius Malfoy? Both of them manipulating the system, believing their goals justified their methods. The thought was troubling. Get some rest, Hermione advised, releasing his hand. Tomorrow will be challenging enough without exhaustion clouding your judgment. As Harry headed toward his chambers in what had once been the Malfoy family wing, he felt the Manor's magic swirling around him, responding to his conflicted emotions. The portraits on the walls watched him pass, their aristocratic faces unreadable. He'd removed the most openly hostile ones, but many remained, silent witnesses to the changing of the guard. In his room, transformed from Lucius and Narcissa's former master suite into a space that reflected his own simpler tastes, Harry stood before the full-length mirror, studying his reflection. He looked different somehow. Still recognizably himself, but with subtle changes, his posture straighter, his green eyes brighter with an inner light that hadn't been there before, his movements more deliberate and assured. Power was changing him, just as Hermione had warned. The question was whether he could control that change or whether it would ultimately control him. The great hall of the newly christened Phoenix Institute gleamed with magical light. What had once been the Malfoys' formal ballroom had been transformed, the dark wood paneling replaced with warm cherry, the snake motifs changed to a subtle pattern of phoenixes rising in flight, the oppressive chandeliers exchanged for floating globes of gentle illumination. Windows had been enlarged to let in more natural light, and the space had been extended magically to accommodate the hundreds of guests attending the opening ceremony. Harry stood at the entrance, greeting Wizengamot members, ministry officials, international representatives, and educational leaders from Hogwarts and other magical institutions. Beside him, Hermione managed the flow of introductions with practiced ease, her formal robes of midnight blue complementing Harry's deep green. Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin, intoned an elderly witch with a silver walking staff, how very modern your institute appears. One hopes you haven't discarded all the valuable traditions in your renovations. Lady Selwyn, Harry replied with a respectful nod, recognizing her from Wizengamot sessions. I believe you'll find we've preserved the best aspects of magical heritage while making space for new ideas to flourish. Perhaps you'd be interested in our traditional arts hall. We're featuring an exhibition on ancient runic casting techniques. The old witch's eyebrows rose slightly. Indeed. Perhaps I shall inspect it. She moved past them into the hall, her expression thoughtful rather than dismissive, a small victory. Well handled, Hermione murmured. She's influential among the older families. Harry smiled slightly. I'm learning. Next you'll have me hosting tea parties and discussing broomstick regulations. Don't tempt me, Hermione replied, her eyes sparkling with amusement. Oh, heads up. Draco Malfoy, 3 o'clock. Harry turned to see his former rival approaching, impeccably dressed in formal robes of such dark blue they appeared almost black. Despite having lost his family home, Draco maintained the aristocratic bearing that had been instilled in him since birth. He stopped before Harry, offering a stiff but correct bow. Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin, he said, his voice carefully neutral. Mother sends her regrets. She is indisposed. Harry understood the subtext. Narcissa Malfoy couldn't bring herself to see her former home transformed. Her absence is noted. Thank you for coming in her stead. Draco's eyes flicked around the transformed space. You've been busy. Would you like a tour? Harry offered, surprising himself as much as Draco. Some things remain that might interest you. A flicker of curiosity crossed Draco's face. Perhaps later. I'm actually here on official business. He produced a sealed parchment. The Malfoy solicitors have prepared a formal counterpetition regarding certain artifacts removed from the estate. Items of personal significance rather than property fixtures. Harry accepted the document, handing it to Hermione who tucked it into a folder. We'll review it fairly, Malfoy. I have no interest in keeping family heirlooms that have no connection to the property itself. Draco seemed taken aback by the reasonable response. Thank you. That's unexpectedly decent of you. Contrary to what your father might believe, this isn't about erasing your family, Harry said quietly. It's about creating something new from a place that has seen too much darkness. Draco held his gaze for a long moment, conflict evident in his gray eyes. You haven't heard from him, then? My father? Only through his proxies trying to kill me, Harry replied dryly. Be careful, Potter, Draco said, lowering his voice. He's not working alone anymore. There are factions forming. People who see your rise as a threat to the old ways. Are you warning me, Malfoy? Draco straightened his already perfect robes. I'm protecting my family's interests. If you're killed, the estate reverts to us. If you're killed in a way that implicates my father, we lose everything. Simple self-interest. Before Harry could respond, Minister Shacklebolt approached, signaling it was time to begin the ceremony. Draco gave a curt nod and moved away, disappearing into the growing crowd. The formal opening proceeded smoothly. Harry's speech about building bridges between magical traditions and innovations was received with enthusiastic applause from the progressives and polite attention from the traditionalists, better than the open hostility he'd expected. Hermione presented the educational curriculum for Muggle-born integration, while international representatives pledged cooperation and exchange programs. As Harry circulated afterward, accepting congratulations and fielding questions, he felt a familiar prickle at the back of his neck, the manners magic responding to something. He excused himself from a conversation with Professor McGonagall and moved toward a quieter corner of the hall, extending his magical awareness as he'd been practicing. There, a subtle disturbance in the wards at the eastern boundary. Not an attack, but a careful probing, like fingers testing a fence for weak points. Harry caught Hermione's eye across the room and made a slight gesture they'd established for security concerns. She nodded almost imperceptibly and began making her way toward him, pausing to speak briefly with Kingsley. Something's testing the eastern wards, Harry murmured when she reached him. Not trying to break through, just examining them. Kingsley joined them, his expression grave. My security team hasn't reported anything. They wouldn't, Harry explained. It's too subtle. I can feel it because of my connection to the manor's magic. The minister studied him with concern. These new abilities of yours, they're growing stronger. Harry nodded. And I'm not the only one noticing the changes. He indicated several guests who were watching him with varying degrees of unease or interest, particularly the older purebloods. I can feel their magic now too, like signatures, each one distinct. That's not normal, Harry, Hermione said quietly. Even the most powerful wizards don't typically sense magical auras without specific detection spells. Before Harry could respond, a house elf appeared with a soft pop, bowing low. Master Harry, Biddy is sorry to interrupt, but there is being a problem in the Nexus chamber. The orb is changing. Harry's heart sank. Keep everyone here, he instructed Kingsley and Hermione. I'll check it out. You're not going alone, Hermione insisted, already moving toward the hidden passage that led to the lower levels. Kingsley nodded. Go. I'll maintain the appearance that everything is normal. Harry and Hermione slipped away from the gathering, moving swiftly through the manor's corridors. As they descended toward the Nexus chamber, Harry could feel the disturbance growing stronger, pulses of magic radiating upward like a heartbeat growing increasingly erratic. The silver door to the chamber stood ajar, something that should have been impossible, only Harry could open it since claiming the manor. Inside, the crystal walls flickered with unstable energy, the magical currents beneath them surging and receding in chaotic patterns. At the center, the crystal orb pulsed with rapidly changing colors, red, silver, green, then purple, then back again, each cycle faster than the last. This isn't good, Hermione whispered, stepping carefully into the chamber. The magical resonance is destabilizing. Harry approached the pedestal, feeling drawn to the orb despite the obvious danger. As he neared, the color shifts slowed, settling into a swirling mixture of his three house colors with threads of purple woven through. I think it's responding to me, he said. Like it's trying to communicate something. Harry, wait, Hermione began, but he was already reaching for the orb. The moment his fingers touched the crystal surface, visions flooded his mind, not of the past this time, but possibilities. He saw Malfoy Manor transformed into the Phoenix Institute, a place of learning and healing. He saw himself in Wizengamot chambers, leading reforms that united the magical world. But then the visions darkened, magical storms ravaging Britain, creatures of pure energy rising from disrupted ley lines, and finally, a shadowy figure with ancient eyes watching, judging, preparing to act. Harry pulled his hand away with a gasp, stumbling backward. Hermione caught him before he could fall. "What did you see?" she demanded, steadying him. "The future, or possible futures," Harry said, his voice hoarse. "Something's coming, Hermione. Something old, awakened by what I've done." The orb's pulsing steadied somewhat, but the purple threads remained, growing more pronounced. The magical currents beneath the chamber flowed in new patterns, as if being redirected by an invisible hand. "We need to get back to the ceremony," Harry decided. "But afterward, I want every book on magical balance and ancient guardians brought here. If something's awakening because of my inheritances, I need to know what we're facing." As they hurried back upstairs, neither noticed the small raven perched in the shadows of the chamber's high ceiling, its eyes reflecting the orb's light with unnatural intelligence. When they left, it fluttered down to the pedestal, regarding the crystal sphere with a tilt of its head. The raven's form shimmered, elongating and transforming until a tall, silver-haired wizard stood in its place, dressed in robes that seemed to shift between solid fabric and smoke. He touched the orb gently. "So," he murmured to himself, "the balance tips further. 3 becomes 1, and the old compact strains." He glanced toward the door where Harry had departed. Young Potter plays with forces beyond his understanding. The correction will come, as it must. The figure dissolved back into raven form and flew upward, passing through the solid ceiling as if it were mist, leaving no evidence of the visitation except a single black feather floating down to rest beside the glowing orb. Harry maintained a calm facade throughout the remainder of the ceremony, but his mind raced with implications of what he'd seen in the Nexus chamber. When the last guests finally departed, he retreated to the manor's newly established war room with Hermione, Ron, who had arrived late, busy with aura training, and Kingsley. "Something's definitely happening with the magical currents," Kingsley confirmed, unrolling a map of Britain marked with glowing points indicating disturbances. "The Department of Mysteries reports unprecedented activity along the ley lines, all converging here." "On Malfoy Manor," Ron clarified, leaning over the map. "Blimey, Harry, you don't do anything by halves, do you? First you know who, now you're breaking the magical balance of Britain." "Not helping, Ronald," Hermione said sharply, though Harry appreciated his friend's attempt at lightening the mood. "What exactly did you see in the orb?" Kingsley asked, turning to Harry. Harry described the visions as clearly as he could remember them, particularly the shadowy figure that seemed to be watching, waiting. "It felt like judgment. Like something evaluating whether I deserve these powers." "The Guardian," Hermione murmured, looking up from an ancient text she'd retrieved from the Malfoy library. "This book mentions a Guardian of Balance created in Merlin's time, tasked with ensuring no single wizard accumulated too much hereditary magic." Ron frowned. "Why would that be a problem? Isn't more magic better?" "Not necessarily," Kingsley replied. "Magical theory suggests that family magic, the kind passed through bloodlines and linked to lordships, needs to remain distributed for stability. Too much concentration could warp the very fabric of magic itself. Which is exactly what we're seeing," Hermione added, indicating the map. "These disturbances are getting worse, and they're following a pattern." She traced the glowing points, which formed a spiraling shape centered on the manor. "So what does this Guardian do?" Harry asked, the knot in his stomach tightening. "Take away my magic. Kill me?" Hermione shook her head. "The texts aren't specific. They just say it restores balance when hereditary magic concentrates too heavily. Maybe you could give up one of the lordships?" Ron suggested. Pass the black title to Teddy when he's older, or something. It's not that simple, Kingsley said. Magic itself has recognized Harry's claim to all three houses. Breaking that bond would require ritual magic of the highest order, perhaps even sacrifice. The implications hung heavy in the air. Harry paced the length of the room, feeling the manor's magic responding to his agitation, the walls seeming to pulse slightly with his heartbeat. I need to confront this guardian, he decided. If it's judging me, I want to make my case directly. That's assuming it's an entity you can reason with, Hermione cautioned. It could be a magical force, not a being. A soft knock interrupted them. Creature entered, bowing low. Master Harry, there is being a visitor at the gates. The wards recognize her as Lady Narcissa Malfoy. Harry exchanged surprised glances with the others. Narcissa? Alone? She is being alone, Master. She requests urgent audience regarding her husband. Kingsley straightened. This could be a trap. Or information, Harry countered. Narcissa saved my life in the forest. I owe her at least a hearing. He turned to Creature. Bring her to the green reception room. Full security protocols. As Creature departed, Ron moved closer to Harry. Want me to call in backup? No, Harry decided. Too many Aurors might spook her. But stay alert. Narcissa Malfoy entered the reception room with the dignified grace that characterized her, despite the strain evident in her pale face and the shadows beneath her eyes. She wore simple dark robes rather than her usual finery, and her blonde hair was pulled back severely. Mr. Potter, she said, declining to use his full lordly title, thank you for seeing me. Harry gestured to a chair. You mentioned information about Lucius? She sat, her back straight as a wand. My husband has made alliances that concern me deeply. Not for your sake, she added quickly, but for Draco's. For our family's future. What kind of alliances? Kingsley asked. Narcissa's gaze flicked to the minister, then back to Harry. He's contacted an antiquities collector, a man named Bartholomew Selwyn. Distant relation to Lady Selwyn of the Wisengamot. This man specializes in objects related to Merlin's era, particularly items designed to counter great magical power. Harry felt a chill. Objects like a guardian? Narcissa's eyebrows rose slightly. You know of it, then? Yes, Lucius believes he's found references to controlling the Guardian of Balance, to direct its power rather than merely awakening it. Why are you telling us this? Hermione asked, suspicion clear in her voice. Because my husband is blinded by vengeance, Narcissa replied simply. He would risk destroying the very fabric of magic to reclaim what he's lost. I may not like what you've done with our home, Mr. Potter, but I recognize when a greater danger threatens us all. Harry studied her carefully. His new sensitivity to magical signatures told him she was being truthful, or at least, believed she was telling the truth. Where is he now? He asked. The Selwyn estate in northern Scotland. A hidden property under Fidelius, but I can provide the location. She produced a small piece of parchment. I am the secret keeper, part of the alliance Lucius negotiated. Kingsley took the parchment carefully. Why betray your husband's confidence? Narcissa's expression hardened. Lucius promised we would reclaim our position, our home, our dignity. Instead, he makes deals with fanatics who speak of purging magical abominations and restoring true balance. I've seen where such ideology leads. Her voice softened slightly. And I've seen my son begin to forge a different path. A difficult one, but perhaps a wiser one. The information changed everything. If Lucius was attempting to control rather than merely awaken the Guardian, the danger was far greater than they'd realized. We'll need to move quickly, Harry said. Thank you, Lady Malfoy. Narcissa stood. I didn't do this for thanks. I did it for survival, mine and my son's. She paused at the door. One more thing, Mr. Potter. The Selwyn estate stands upon a ley line intersection much like this manor. If my husband succeeds in his ritual, the magical backlash will be catastrophic. After she left, escorted by Creature to the gates, the group reconvened in the war room to plan their approach. We can't just storm the place, Ron argued. Even with the location, a Fidelius means defenses, probably nasty ones. And we don't know exactly what Lucius is planning, Hermione added. Confronting the Guardian directly might be exactly what he wants us to do. Harry stared at the map, where a new glowing point had appeared at the location Narcissa had revealed. We don't have much choice. The disruptions are getting worse, and now we know why. Lucius is deliberately aggravating the imbalance, trying to force the Guardian to manifest so he can control it. Kingsley nodded grimly. I'll authorize a strike team. Top Aurors, operating with complete secrecy. No, Harry said firmly. This is my responsibility. The Guardian was awakened because of my magical inheritance. I need to face it directly. You're not going alone, Hermione insisted, her tone brooking no argument. Wouldn't dream of it, Harry replied with a slight smile. I was thinking the three of us, like old times. Small enough to infiltrate, strong enough to handle whatever we find. Ron grinned. Breaking into another heavily guarded location to stop a magical disaster. Just like Hogwarts. Kingsley looked like he wanted to object, but something in Harry's expression stopped him. You've earned the right to handle this your way, he conceded. But I want regular check-ins, and if we don't hear from you by dawn, I'm sending in everyone. As they prepared, gathering supplies and reviewing the manor's records on ley line magic, Harry felt a strange sense of clarity. Since claiming his inheritances, he'd been reacting to events, defending against attacks, struggling to understand his new powers. Now, finally, he was taking action. Do you think Narcissa was telling the truth? Hermione asked as they packed potions and magical detection devices. Yes, Harry said without hesitation. Her magical signature was clear. She's protecting Draco, not us, but her information is genuine. Hermione gave him a searching look. These new perceptions of yours, they're extraordinary, Harry. But they're also concerning. No wizard should be able to read magical signatures that way. I know, he admitted. Sometimes it feels like I'm changing into something else. Something more than just a wizard. He met her gaze directly. That's why I need to confront this Guardian. Not just to stop Lucius, but to understand what's happening to me. She touched his arm gently. Whatever you're becoming, you're still Harry. That's what matters. The touch lingered, warm and reassuring. Something had been shifting between them since he'd claimed the manor, a deepening of their connection beyond friendship, though neither had put it into words yet. With everything else happening, it hardly seemed the time. Yet in moments like this, Harry felt the potential for more hovering just beyond their usual comfortable companionship. Ron cleared his throat from the doorway. If you two are done having a moment, I've got the portkey coordinates sorted. Hermione pulled her hand away, a slight flush coloring her cheeks. We're ready. Let's go stop Lucius before he breaks the magical world. The Selwyn estate materialized around them as the portkey deposited them just beyond its outer boundaries. Rain fell in a steady drizzle, shrouding the Scottish countryside in mist. Through the gloom, they could make out a stone manor house atop a low hill, its windows dark except for flickering lights in what appeared to be a basement level. Charming place, Ron muttered, casting water-repelling charms on their cloaks. Looks about as welcoming as Snape on a bad day. Harry extended his magical awareness, a skill that had been developing rapidly since he'd bonded with the manor's nexus. What he sensed made his blood run cold. The ley line beneath us is wrong, he whispered. It's being siphoned, redirected. Hermione cast several detection spells. Powerful wards, but focused on keeping things in, not out. That's unusual. Unless what they're doing inside is so dangerous they're more worried about containing it than preventing interruptions, Harry reasoned. They approached cautiously, using disillusionment charms to blend with the misty darkness. The manor's grounds were eerily empty, no guards, no magical sentries, not even the standard protective enchantments Harry would have expected. "It's too quiet," Ron whispered. "Where is everyone?" "Inside," Harry replied, his magical awareness picking up multiple signatures gathered in the lower levels. "There's some kind of ritual underway." They found a side entrance, a servant's door left conspicuously unguarded. Ron's Auror training triggered his suspicion. Definitely a trap. "Probably," Harry agreed. "But also our best way in." Hermione? She was already casting intricate detection spells. Two-stage trap. Alarm on the door, followed by a containment ward 10 feet inside. Both tied to intent, they'll only trigger if we mean to stop whatever's happening. Harry considered this. Can we fool the intent wards? Not easily, Hermione admitted. They're reading magical signature and purpose. Then we don't try to fool them, Harry decided. We overwhelm them. Before his friends could object, Harry reached into the well of power that had been growing inside him, the combined magic of 3 ancient houses, amplified by his connection to Malfoy Manor's nexus. He laid his hands flat against the door and pushed, not physically but magically. The wards shattered with an audible crack, like ice breaking on a frozen lake. The door itself splintered, fragments hanging suspended in the air for a moment before falling in slow motion. Ron stared at him. Bloody hell, Harry. That was excessive, Hermione said, looking both impressed and alarmed. Harry felt slightly dizzy from the magical expenditure but strangely exhilarated too. It worked, didn't it? Come on, they'll have felt that. They moved swiftly through the mansion's dark corridors, following the pull of the magical disturbance below. The interior was opulent but neglected, dust covers shrouding furniture and portraits watching their progress with ancient, suspicious eyes. A staircase led them downward, the stone steps worn smooth by centuries of use. As they descended, the air grew thick with magical energy, not the clean, flowing power of natural ley lines, but something corrupted, twisted to purpose. They emerged into a vast chamber that must have been expanded magically, far larger than the manor above could contain. At its center stood a circular platform inscribed with runic symbols that glowed with sickly purple light. Upon the platform, 7 wizards in ceremonial robes stood in formation around a central figure, Lucius Malfoy, his platinum hair unmistakable even from a distance. Between them hovered a black orb similar to the crystal sphere in Malfoy Manor's nexus chamber, but darker, absorbing light rather than emitting it. Streams of magical energy flowed from each wizard into the orb, which pulsed like a malevolent heart. We're too late, Hermione whispered. They've already started the binding ritual. Harry scanned the chamber, noting the ley line energy being funneled into the ritual circle through carved channels in the floor. Not too late. The Guardian hasn't manifested yet, they're still trying to call it. Lord Knot stood among the circled wizards, his aristocratic features twisted with effort as he channeled magic into the ritual. Beside him, Harry recognized Selwyn, presumably the antiquities collector Narcissa had mentioned, directing the proceedings with elaborate wand work. Potter. Lucius called out suddenly, turning toward their position despite the disillusionment charms. I knew you would come. Your magical signature blazes like a beacon now, impossible to miss. Harry dispelled the charm, stepping forward. Ron and Hermione followed suit, flanking him with wands ready. This ends now, Lucius, Harry called back. You have no idea what you're meddling with. Lucius smiled coldly, never ceasing his part in the ritual. On the contrary, I understand perfectly. The Guardian of Balance awakens when magical power concentrates too heavily in one vessel. You, with your 3 lordships, have triggered its emergence. We are simply directing its attention. You can't control something that ancient, Hermione objected. The text's worn, spare me the lecture, Miss Granger, Lucius cut in. The texts are incomplete. With the proper binding ritual and focus, he indicated the black orb, the guardian can be influenced, its power harnessed. Harry felt a disturbance in the magical currents beneath them, a shifting that had nothing to do with the ritual. Something's coming, he warned. But not what you expect, Lucius. As if in response to his words, the ground trembled. The runic circle flared brighter, but in a pattern different from the ritual's design. The black orb rose higher, spinning faster, the purple energy around it darkening to near black. Maintain the circle. Selwyn shouted to the other wizards. The binding is almost complete. Harry didn't think, he acted. Drawing on his heightened connection to ley line magic, he reached out not with his wand but with his consciousness, connecting to the corrupted magical streams flowing through the chamber. The sensation was overwhelming, like plunging into an ocean of power, currents threatening to sweep him away. But within the chaos, he felt a presence watching, evaluating, waiting. Guardian, Harry called out, not with his voice but with his magic. I am Harry Potter, Lord of Three Houses. Judge me, not them. The chamber erupted in magical backlash. The black orb shattered, fragments dissolving into mist that coalesced into a humanoid figure, tall, indistinct, with eyes that shifted between silver, gold, and deepest black. It hovered above the ritual platform, regarding the assembled wizards with ancient patience. The Guardian, Selwyn breathed, triumph in his voice. Bind it now. The 7 wizards redirected their magic toward the figure, casting binding spells that manifested as golden chains. But the chains passed through the Guardian as if it were smoke, dissolving into sparks. You cannot bind what exists beyond your understanding, the Guardian said, its voice resonating not through air but through the magic itself. I am not creature nor construct, but balance incarnate. Its gaze fixed on Harry. 3 houses united in one vessel. Potter, Black, Slytherin. A convergence not seen since the compact was written. What compact? Harry asked, stepping closer despite his friend's warnings. The agreement made when wizards first channeled family magic through bloodlines, the Guardian explained. Power distributed, balance maintained. You have disrupted this balance, though not by design. Lucius stepped forward, desperation evident in his stance. The boy has violated magical tradition, claimed what is not rightfully his. Judge him for his transgressions. The Guardian regarded Lucius impassively. I judge not intentions but consequences. The balance is disturbed not by his claim alone, but by your attempt to weaponize my purpose. With a gesture, the Guardian dismissed the binding magic still trying to ensnare it. The backlash sent Lucius and his cohort staggering backward. Enough of this, Not snarled, raising his wand. Avada Kedavra. The killing curse struck the Guardian and simply vanished, absorbed like water into sand. The being turned its attention to Not, who fell to his knees clutching his chest as if in pain. The balance will be restored, the Guardian intoned. Its form began to change, expanding into a swirling vortex of magical energy that filled the chamber. Streams of power reached out like tendrils, one wrapping around Harry while others seized Lucius, Not, and the remaining ritual participants. Harry felt his magic being examined, evaluated, each family line assessed separately. The Potter magic, protective, brave, focused on justice. The Black magic, ancient, powerful, connected to deeper mysteries. The Slytherin magic, creative, ambitious, seeking to transcend limitations. 3 paths lie before you, Harry Potter, the Guardian's voice resonated within his mind. Relinquish 2 lordships, keeping only your birthright. Divide your power among worthy heirs of your choosing. Or face the trial of Merlin to prove your worthiness to hold what you have claimed. The magical tendrils retreated, though the Guardian's presence still filled the chamber. Harry stood straighter, the choice clear in his mind. I choose the trial, he said firmly. Hermione stepped forward. Harry, you don't know what that entails. It doesn't matter, Harry replied. I won't give up what I've claimed, not when I'm using it to make things better. And there's no one I would trust with this power who would want it. The Guardian seemed to nod, though its form remained indistinct. The trial of Merlin it shall be. 3 challenges for 3 houses. Success means balance accepted, the compact rewritten. Failure means loss of all you have gained. And them? Harry asked, indicating Lucius and the others. They have attempted to bind that which cannot be bound. Their magic is diminished as consequence. Indeed, Lucius looked suddenly older, his face grey with exhaustion, his magical aura, now visible to Harry's enhanced senses, significantly weaker than before. When does this trial begin? Harry asked. It has already begun, the Guardian replied. The first challenge awaits where 3 lines cross beneath ancient stone. Come alone when the moon is full. Its form began to dissipate, energy flowing back into the ley lines beneath them. 7 days to prepare. Choose wisely what you bring. As the Guardian's presence faded, the magical backlash from the failed ritual surged through the chamber. Harry grabbed Ron and Hermione, operating them to safety just as the underground room began to collapse. They reappeared on the hillside overlooking the Selwyn estate, watching as the manor shuddered, windows shattering as magical energy erupted from within. After a moment, the building settled, damaged but still standing. Did you see anyone else get out? Ron asked, scanning the grounds. Several apparition signatures, Hermione confirmed. They escaped, though I doubt they're in good shape after what the Guardian did to them. Harry stared at the damaged manor, processing everything that had happened. I've got 7 days to prepare for a trial that could cost me everything I've gained. Not just you, Hermione corrected, taking his hand firmly. Us. We'll face this together, just like always. Ron nodded, clapping Harry on the shoulder. Wouldn't miss it. Though I don't fancy explaining to Kingsley how we managed to destroy another ancestral manor without authorization. Despite the gravity of the situation, Harry found himself laughing, a release of tension that felt surprisingly good. Whatever lay ahead, he wasn't facing it alone. As they prepared to return to Malfoy Manor, to the Phoenix Institute, he corrected himself, Harry felt a strange certainty settling over him. The Guardian had judged him worthy of a trial rather than immediate punishment. That alone suggested his path, though unorthodox, might not be entirely wrong. The rain had stopped, and the first light of dawn painted the eastern sky with promises of a new day. Harry took one last look at the Selwyn estate, where Lucius's desperate gambit had failed but inadvertently accelerated the very confrontation he'd sought. Where 3 lines cross beneath ancient stone, Hermione mused. That could be dozens of locations in Britain. No, Harry said with sudden certainty. I know exactly where to go. Care to share with the class? Ron asked. Harry smiled slightly. Where it all began, of course. Hogwarts. The week passed in a blur of preparation. Harry divided his time between research in the manor's extensive library, practical magical training in the dueling room they'd established, and meditation sessions in the Nexus chamber, strengthening his connection to the ley line magic that would likely be crucial in the coming trial. For days after the confrontation at Selwyn Estate, Draco Malfoy arrived unannounced at the Institute's gates. I need to speak with Potter, he told the security wizard at the entrance. It's about my father. Harry received him in the informal study that had once been Lucius's private sanctuary but now featured comfortable furniture and walls lined with books on magical cooperation rather than dark arts. My father is dying, Draco said without preamble, declining the offered seat. Whatever that thing did to him at Selwyn's, it's draining him day by day. The healers say his magical core is collapsing. Harry wasn't entirely surprised. The Guardian said it diminished their magic as a consequence for trying to bind it. I'm sorry, Draco. Are you? Draco challenged, though without real heat. He tried to control an ancient magical force to use against you. Hardly deserves your sympathy. He's still your father, Harry said simply. Draco finally sat, looking suddenly exhausted. He's asking for you. Says he has information about the trial you're facing. Harry's interest sharpened. How does he know about that? Apparently attempting to bind the Guardian created some kind of connection. He sees things now, fragments of knowledge he shouldn't have access to. Draco's expression was troubled. It's killing him, but he seems almost elated by what he's learning. Where is he? A safe house in Cornwall. Unplottable, but I can take you. Draco hesitated. He specified you come alone. That's not happening, Harry said firmly. I thought you'd say that. He said to tell you the first challenge involves the essence of sacrifice, and that you'll need what he knows to survive it. Draco stood. Your choice, Potter. Information that might save your life, or prudent caution that might doom you. Harry considered his options. The Guardian had been cryptic about the nature of the trials, and any advantage could prove crucial. But meeting Lucius alone was foolish, regardless of his weakened state. I'll come, Harry decided. But I choose who accompanies me. In the end, he brought Bill Weasley. His experience as a curse-breaker made him invaluable for assessing potential traps, and kept Ron and Hermione on alert, ready to follow with Auror backup if he missed a scheduled check-in. The safe house turned out to be a small stone cottage perched on a cliff overlooking the sea, isolated and windswept. Inside, they found Lucius Malfoy reclining on a chaise, wrapped in blankets despite the fire roaring in the grate. His once impressive appearance had deteriorated dramatically, his face gaunt, hair thinning, skin nearly translucent. Potter, he acknowledged weakly. And Weasley. How disappointing. I had hoped to speak to you alone. That was never going to happen, Harry replied, remaining standing. Draco says you have information about the trials. Lucius gestured feebly toward a side table where a silver flask rested. Water, he requested. Bill checked it for poisons or enchantments before handing it to the ailing wizard. Lucius drank deeply, some color returning to his face. The Guardian is not what the ancient texts describe, he said, his voice steadying. It's older, more fundamental to magic itself. When we attempted to bind it, I glimpsed its true nature. The trials you face aren't tests of magical strength but of worthiness. Worthiness for what? To rewrite the compact. Lucius set down the flask. You don't even understand what you've stumbled into, do you? The compact of distribution was Merlin's solution to the chaos of early magic, a binding agreement that family magic would remain distributed among multiple lines, preventing any single wizard from accumulating too much hereditary power. Harry nodded. The Guardian mentioned something similar. What it didn't tell you is that the compact can be amended by one who passes the trials. You could literally reshape how family magic functions in our world. Lucius's eyes gleamed with something between admiration and envy. That's why I tried to bind the Guardian, not just for revenge, but for the power to rewrite magical inheritance itself. Bill shifted uncomfortably. That kind of power shouldn't belong to anyone. Perhaps not, Lucius conceded. But it will belong to Potter if he succeeds. Or to whoever defeats him if he fails. Harry frowned. What do you mean, whoever defeats me? The trials don't end with your success or failure, Lucius explained. They continue until someone proves worthy or until the Guardian decides no one is. If you fall, another can take your place. That's why I brought you here. He leaned forward, intensity breaking through his weakness. Work with Draco. Share the trials, and if you cannot complete them, let him continue in your stead. The request was so unexpected that Harry actually laughed. You want me to partner with your son? After everything your family has done to mine? I want the compact rewritten to restore the prominence of the old families, Lucius said bluntly. You want to change our world. Perhaps there is space for both visions. Harry studied the dying wizard, trying to discern his true motives. And the first trial? What's this essence of sacrifice you mentioned? Lucius settled back, a cunning smile playing on his lips despite his weakened state. The first trial requires the sacrifice of something precious, not life or blood, but something of true personal value. For each house you claim, something must be given up. That's rather vague, Bill commented. Intentionally so. The guardian judges not just the sacrifice itself but the spirit in which it's offered. Lucius's gaze locked with Harry's. Consider carefully what you value most for each house you claim. Potter-Black-Slytherin, 3 sacrifices of increasing significance. Harry had gotten what he came for, though the information raised as many questions as it answered. As they prepared to leave, Lucius called out once more. One last thing, Potter. The location, 3 lines beneath ancient stone. It's not Hogwarts as you believe. Harry paused at the door. Then where? The Forbidden Temple in Wales. Where Merlin himself wrote the original compact. Lucius's expression was both triumphant and bitter. Good luck, Potter. You'll need it. As they departed the cottage, Bill looked troubled. Can we trust anything he said? Parts of it, Harry replied. He's dying and desperate, but he still wants his family to benefit. The suggestion to partner with Draco is self-serving, but the information about the trial's nature likely has truth to it. And this Forbidden Temple? I've never heard of it. Nor have I, Harry admitted. But I know someone who might have. Upon their return to the Institute, Harry immediately sought out Hermione, finding her in the library surrounded by ancient texts on magical law and inheritance. The Forbidden Temple, she repeated when Harry explained what Lucius had told them. Yes, it's mentioned in Mystical Sites of Ancient Britain, but its exact location was lost centuries ago. It's where Merlin supposedly established the first formal magical governance structure. Could it be where 3 ley lines cross? Harry asked. Hermione was already pulling out maps. There are 17 major ley line intersections in Britain. If we cross-reference with historical accounts of Merlin's activities. She trailed off, engrossed in the research. Harry left her to it, turning his attention to the more troubling aspect of Lucius's information, the sacrifices required for the trial. What did he truly value that represented each house he claimed? For Potter, the choice seemed clearest, his parents' legacy, the protection their love had granted him. For Black, perhaps his connection to Sirius, the closest thing to a father he had known. But for Slytherin? What did that house mean to him beyond the conquest of Voldemort? He retreated to the Nexus chamber, hoping the connection to the manor's magical heart might provide clarity. The crystal orb had stabilized somewhat since the Guardian's appearance, though threads of purple still wove through its predominantly red-silver-green glow. Placing his hand on the sphere, Harry closed his eyes, seeking guidance. Images flowed through his mind, not visions of the future this time, but reflections of the past. His mother's sacrifice. Sirius falling through the veil. The moment he had defeated Voldemort, claiming the Slytherin legacy through conquest. When he emerged from the chamber hours later, Harry had reached a decision. He would face the trial alone, despite Lucius's suggestion to partner with Draco. Some burdens couldn't be shared, and the responsibility for the power he had claimed was his alone. In the remaining days before the full moon, preparations intensified. Hermione located the probable site of the Forbidden Temple, a magically hidden location in the Brecon Beacons where 3 major ley lines intersected beneath what Muggle hikers perceived as an unremarkable hill. The evening before the trial, Harry gathered his closest friends in the Institute's war room for a final council. I've decided what I'll bring, he told them, indicating a simple moleskin pouch containing 3 objects, his mother's wedding ring, recovered from his parents' vault, a fragment of the mirror Sirius had given him, and a small vial containing the tears Fawkes had shed when healing Harry's basilisk wound in the Chamber of Secrets. Symbols of each house, Hermione observed. Potter, Black, and Slytherin through your defeat of the basilisk and Riddle's diary. Harry nodded. Not just symbols, connections to what each house truly means to me. Love, family, and overcoming darkness. Are you sure about going alone? Ron asked for perhaps the 20th time. The Guardian didn't specifically forbid help. It didn't need to, Harry replied. This is my trial to face. My responsibility. Later that evening, as preparations concluded and his friends finally retired to their rooms, Harry found himself standing on the manor's highest terrace, gazing up at the nearly full moon that would reach completion the following night. He sensed rather than heard Hermione's approach, her magical signature now as familiar to him as her footsteps. "Trouble sleeping?" she asked, joining him at the balustrade. "Just thinking," Harry replied. "About everything that's led to this point. Claiming the lordships, taking the manor, establishing the institute, it all seemed so clear, so right at the time. Now I'm not so sure. Second thoughts. Wondering if I've become what I fought against," Harry admitted. "Using ancient laws for my own purposes, accumulating power, changing magical society according to my vision rather than letting it evolve naturally." Hermione was quiet for a moment, considering. "There's a difference," she finally said. "You're not seeking power for its own sake or to elevate yourself above others. You're trying to create something better, more equal." "But who am I to decide what's better?" Harry countered. "Maybe the old families are right to fear change. Maybe traditions exist for reasons beyond prejudice." "Some do," Hermione agreed. "That's why the Institute preserves magical culture alongside innovation. But inequality built into the system isn't tradition worth preserving, it's injustice hiding behind history." Harry smiled slightly. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been the clever one," she reminded him with a teasing smile. "You're just now noticing." The moment stretched between them, comfortable yet charged with unspoken possibility. Harry found himself studying her face in the moonlight, noting how her eyes reflected the stars, how a strand of her hair curled against her cheek. "Hermione," he began, uncertain what he wanted to say but feeling it needed to be said tonight, before whatever awaited him at the Forbidden Temple. She met his gaze steadily. "Yes. If something happens tomorrow, if I don't come back, I want you to know," Hermione pressed a finger to his lips, silencing him. "Don't. No fatalistic declarations before dangerous missions. It's bad luck." Harry smiled against her finger. "Since when are you superstitious?" "Since my best friend keeps facing death-defying challenges," she replied, lowering her hand but not stepping back. "Tell me after you return. It'll give you something to come back for." Before he could respond, she leaned forward and kissed him, briefly, softly, a promise rather than a passion. Then she turned and walked away, pausing at the terrace door. "Rest, Harry. Tomorrow you rewrite history or lose everything. Either way, I'll be waiting when it's done." After she left, Harry remained on the terrace for a long time, watching the stars well overhead and feeling, for the first time in weeks, absolutely certain of his path forward. The Forbidden Temple revealed itself at moonrise, stone pillars emerging from what had appeared to be an ordinary hillside as silver light touched their ancient surfaces. Harry approached alone, having apparat to the coordinates Hermione had calculated. The night was clear, the full moon casting the Welsh Valley in ethereal light that seemed to vibrate with magical potential. The temple itself was a circular arrangement of standing stones surrounding a central altar, not unlike Stonehenge but smaller and intact, protected from time and elements by magic older than wizarding memory. As Harry passed between the outer pillars, he felt a shift in the air, a thickening of magic that made his skin tingle. At the center, the Guardian awaited, more substantial than before, its form resembling a robed figure with features that shifted between age and youth, male and female, stern and benevolent. "Harry Potter," it greeted him, voice resonating from the stones themselves. "You come to face the trial of 3. Harry bowed slightly. "I'm ready. Are you?" The Guardian circled him, evaluating. 3 houses, 3 trials, 3 sacrifices. The magic of balance demands equilibrium. For what you have gained, something must be given. The ground beneath Harry's feet illuminated, revealing an intricate pattern of runes and symbols, 3 interlocking circles, each glowing with a different color, red for Potter, silver for Black, green for Slytherin. The first trial, the Guardian announced. For the House of Potter, your birthright, what will you sacrifice? Harry removed his mother's wedding ring from the moleskin pouch. I offer this, symbol of the love that has protected me since birth. The Guardian examined the ring, not physically but magically, tendrils of power assessing its significance. The sacrifice must be more than symbol. It must be essence. Harry hesitated, unsure what more was required. Then understanding dawned. The protection my mother's sacrifice granted me, the blood protection that has shielded me from Voldemort, that Dumbledore extended through my aunt's home. I offer that. You would surrender the magical protection that has preserved your life many times, the Guardian asked. Yes, Harry said firmly. I no longer need to be protected by my mother's sacrifice. I can protect myself now, and others. The Guardian seemed to nod. The ring in Harry's palm glowed brightly, then dissolved into mist that swirled around him before sinking into his skin. He gasped as he felt something fundamental shift within his magical core, a warm presence that had always been there, now withdrawing. The sacrifice is accepted, the Guardian declared. The Potter magic recognizes your maturity and independence. The first circle glowed brighter, then settled into a steady pulse. Harry felt strangely lighter, as if a weight he hadn't recognized had been lifted. The second trial, the Guardian continued. For the House of Black, claimed through bequest, what will you sacrifice? Harry produced the mirror fragment. This represents my connection to Sirius Black, my godfather, who named me his heir. Again, the Guardian examined the offering. And what essence does this embody that you would surrender? Harry considered carefully. The Black inheritance had brought him not only Grimmauld Place and wealth but a connection to a family legacy, complicated, often dark, but also powerful and enduring. I sacrificed the desire for the family I never had, Harry said quietly. The dream that Sirius represented, a home, a guardian, a link to my parents. I accept that my family now exists in those I choose, not in longing for what might have been. The mirror fragment rose from his hand, hovering before him. Within its surface, images appeared, Sirius laughing, his parents dancing at their wedding, the family he might have had if tragedy hadn't intervened. The images dissolved, and with them, the ache of absence that had lived in Harry's heart since childhood. The sacrifice is accepted, the Guardian stated. The black magic acknowledges your chosen bonds over blood. The second circle glowed silver, joining the first in steady rhythm. Harry felt another shift within his magic, not diminishment but clarification, as if a fog had lifted. The third trial, the Guardian announced. For the House of Slytherin, claimed through conquest, what will you sacrifice? Harry withdrew the vial of phoenix tears. These represent healing from the basilisk's venom, my first victory against Slytherin's legacy of darkness. The Guardian's form shifted, becoming more serpentine for a moment before returning to humanoid. And what essence would you surrender from this conquest? This was the most difficult sacrifice to articulate. Harry had defeated Voldemort, the heir of Slytherin, and in doing so had claimed that magical legacy. But what did Slytherin truly represent to him? I sacrificed the power of Parseltongue, Harry finally said. The ability to speak to serpents that I gained through my connection to Voldemort. It was never truly mine, and I relinquish it freely. The vial floated upward, the pearlescent tears within glowing with inner fire. As Harry watched, he felt a strange sensation, like a language being unwritten from his mind, words and meanings he had understood instinctively now becoming incomprehensible. But the Guardian shook its head. This is not a true sacrifice. The Parseltongue ability returned to you when you claimed the Slytherin magic rightfully. It is now yours by right of conquest. Harry hadn't realized this. He'd assumed his ability to speak to snakes had died with the fragment of Voldemort's soul that had lived within him. He needed to offer something else, something that truly represented what Slytherin meant. Then I sacrificed the right of conquest itself, Harry said with sudden clarity. The magical principle that allowed me to claim Slytherin's legacy through defeating its heir. I renounce the ancient law that magic can be claimed through violence. The Guardian went very still. You would surrender the very basis of your claim to Slytherin's magic? Yes, Harry said firmly. If I am worthy of Slytherin's magic, let it be through merit, not conquest. Let no wizard ever again gain magical inheritance through another's defeat. The temple fell silent, the very air seeming to hold its breath. Then the vial of tears burst into flame, not destructive but purifying, phoenix fire that spread to encompass Harry in its embrace. He felt a profound transformation within his magical core, not loss but transcendence, as the magic he had claimed through victory over Voldemort became truly his own, accepted by choice rather than taken by force. The sacrifice is accepted, the Guardian proclaimed, its voice reverberating through the ancient stones. More than accepted, honored. You have offered not just personal sacrifice but transformation of magical law itself. The third circle glowed emerald green, completing the interlocking pattern. The three circles began to spin, merging into a single golden light that rose from the ground to envelop both Harry and the Guardian. The trial of three is complete, the Guardian declared. You have proven worthy to hold the magic of three houses, not through power or cunning, but through understanding of what true balance requires. The compact is rewritten. The golden light intensified, becoming almost blinding. Within it, Harry saw the magical fabric of Britain itself, ley lines flowing like rivers across the land, family magics pulsing like stars in the firmament. And at the center, where three powerful lines converged, he saw himself, no longer a disruption in the pattern but an integral part of it, a nexus of harmonized magic. What does this mean? Harry asked, overwhelmed by the vision. It means that magic recognizes your right to hold what you have claimed, the Guardian explained. And more, it accepts your amendment to the compact. No longer will magical inheritance pass through conquest. The old way ends, a new balance begins. The light began to fade, the vision receding. Harry felt the changes settling within him, his magic no longer turbulent but harmonized, the three family powers integrated rather than competing. The disruptions will cease, the Guardian said. The magic will flow as it should. You may keep what you have claimed, Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin, and use it as you see fit. And you? Harry asked, sensing the Guardian's form becoming less substantial. I return to watchfulness. The balance is restored, for now. The ancient being seemed to smile. Until another challenges the order of things, as is inevitable in the fullness of time. As the Guardian faded, its final words lingered in the air, remember, Harry Potter, with great magic comes great responsibility. The changes you make will echo through generations. Choose wisely. Then it was gone, and Harry stood alone in the ancient temple under the full moon. The stone pillars hummed with residual magic, but the intense power that had filled the site during the trial had subsided to a gentle current. He took a moment to assess himself, exploring the changes within his magical core. The three family magics remained distinct yet harmonious, no longer causing the instability that had triggered the Guardian's awakening. He felt stronger, more centered, but also more responsible, aware that his actions had altered magical law itself. As he prepared to leave the temple, a movement at the outer circle of stones caught his attention. A figure stepped from the shadows, Draco Malfoy, looking both wary and determined. Potter, he acknowledged, approaching cautiously. I see you survived. Harry wasn't entirely surprised to find him there. Your father told you where to come. Draco nodded. He said if you failed, I might have a chance to complete the trial myself. Restore the Malfoy fortunes in one dramatic gesture. I didn't fail. Clearly. Draco surveyed the temple, noting the still glowing runes on the ground. What happens now? Harry considered the question. So much had changed, the magical balance restored, his own powers stabilized, the law of magical conquest abolished. Yet the practical realities remained, the Phoenix Institute still needed guidance, the wizarding world still needed reform, and the Malfoys were still displaced from their ancestral home. "Now we build something better," Harry said finally. "The Guardian accepted my sacrifices, including the surrender of the right of conquest. That means magic itself recognizes that power shouldn't be taken by force." "Philosophical, but not very practical," Draco observed. "My family's still lost everything." "Not everything," Harry countered. "Your father's dying, yes, but you and your mother still have your magic, your knowledge, your connections. And I'm offering you a choice." "What kind of choice?" "Work with me at the Institute," Harry proposed. "Bring your family's knowledge of traditions and history to help bridge the gap between old and new. In return, I'll establish a Malfoy wing dedicated to preserving magical heritage, with you as its director." Draco looked stunned. "You trust me with that? After everything?" "Trust has to start somewhere," Harry replied. "The magical world is changing. We can change with it or be left behind." For a long moment, Draco was silent, weighing the offer against his pride, his prejudices, his family expectations. Finally, he extended his hand, an echo of a similar gesture made and rejected on a train many years ago. "I'll consider it," he said, not quite committing but not refusing either. "If my mother agrees." Harry shook his hand, feeling a small but significant shift in the pattern of things. "Fair enough." As they left the temple together, the ancient stones gradually fading back into the hillside until the next time they were needed, Harry felt a profound sense of completion. The trial had tested not just his magical ability but his understanding of what truly mattered, not power for its own sake, but what that power could build. Dawn was breaking as Harry operated back to the Phoenix Institute, where he knew Hermione, Ron, and the others would be anxiously waiting. The manor, his manor now, truly and rightfully, welcomed him with a surge of harmonized magic as he passed through the gates. Hermione met him at the entrance, relief washing over her face at the sight of him. "You're back. Did you?" "I passed," Harry confirmed, taking her hands in his. "The Guardian accepted my sacrifices. The magic is balanced." She studied his face, noting subtle changes. "You seem different." "I am," Harry acknowledged. "I had to give up some things I'd held onto for too long. But I gained clarity about what matters most." Remembering their conversation on the terrace the night before, Harry drew her closer. "You told me to wait until I returned to tell you what I wanted to say." Hermione's eyes sparkled. "I'm listening." "I realized something during the trial," Harry said quietly. "When I had to choose what to sacrifice, what really mattered, I found myself thinking of you. Not just as my friend or my partner in all this, but as..." He paused, searching for the right words. "As the future I want to build toward." Her smile was radiant. "That's a very elaborate way of saying you have feelings for me, Harry Potter." "Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin," he corrected with a grin. "And yes, it is. I've never been good with words." "Then stop talking," Hermione suggested, and pulled him down for a kiss that promised a future worth building. Inside the manor, the Nexus orb glowed with perfect balance, red, silver, and green in harmony. And far away, beneath an unmarked hill, an ancient scroll completed itself with a final verse: "The Triple Lord has proven true, his sacrifices born of virtue." The compact stands, renewed and sound, until another challenge is found. Chapter 3, Balance and Reckoning. Morning light streamed through the enchanted windows of what had once been Malfoy Manor's formal dining room, now transformed into the central hall of the Phoenix Institute. Where ornate silver serpents had once adorned dark paneling, warm wooden walls now featured educational displays about magical integration. The long table where Death Eaters had once plotted domination had been replaced with multiple round tables, encouraging conversation rather than hierarchy. Harry stood by the main entrance, watching as the first official class of Muggle-born students and their families entered the hall. 20 children, ranging from 8 to 10 years old, identified by a new magical detection system Hermione had developed, along with their wide-eyed parents. These children wouldn't face the shock Harry had experienced when Hagrid crashed through a door on his 11th birthday. Instead, they would spend 3 years learning about magic before receiving their Hogwarts letters, giving them time to adjust to the reality of what they were. "Welcome to the Phoenix Institute," Harry greeted them, conscious of both the excitement and apprehension on their faces. "My name is Harry Potter. Like many of you, I grew up not knowing about magic until I was 11. Today marks the beginning of a new approach, one where that transition happens gradually, with support and understanding." A small girl with curly red hair raised her hand hesitantly. "Are you really the one who defeated the Dark Wizard?" Harry smiled. "Yes, but that's a story for another day. Today is about you and your journey." Hermione joined him at the front of the room, her presence steadying him as always. In the month since the trial of 3, their relationship had blossomed from friendship into something deeper, though both remained focused on establishing the Institute's programs. "Today you'll be divided into small groups," Hermione explained to the families. "You'll tour the Institute, meet magical beings safely, and learn about how magic fits into the wider world. Parents, you'll have a separate session addressing your questions and concerns." As the orientation proceeded, Harry slipped away to check on another significant development. In the East Wing, a different kind of integration was taking place, one that had surprised the wizarding world almost as much as Harry's triple lordship. The Malfoy Heritage Wing, as it was now called, had been Draco's condition for accepting Harry's offer of partnership. To everyone's shock, Narcissa had not only approved but had become actively involved, donating family artifacts and historical documents that had been removed before the manor's transfer. Harry found Draco in the newly established library, cataloging ancient texts on wizarding genealogy and tradition. He looked up as Harry entered, his expression guarded but not hostile. "The first Muggleborns have arrived?" Draco asked, carefully placing a delicate tome on its stand. Harry nodded. 20 families. They're getting the orientation now. And how are they responding to entering the former stronghold of pure-blood supremacy? There was a hint of his old sarcasm, but something else too, genuine curiosity. With wonder, mostly, Harry replied. The changes to the manor are substantial enough that its history isn't obvious to newcomers. Draco shelved another book, his movements precise. Mother wants to know if you've considered her proposal about the formal gardens. The magical plant sanctuary? Yes, the board approved it yesterday. She can begin whenever she's ready. A flicker of surprise crossed Draco's face. Since agreeing to work with the Institute, he had maintained a professional distance, expecting resistance at every turn. Harry's consistent acceptance of Narcissa's suggestions seemed to continually catch him off guard. I'll tell her, he said finally. She'll be pleased. Harry moved further into the library, examining the impressive collection Draco had assembled. Ancient magical traditions from around the world, histories of the sacred 28 families, guides to wizarding etiquette and custom, all carefully preserved and displayed. This is excellent work, Harry acknowledged. Exactly what I hoped for when I suggested this wing. Draco raised an eyebrow. Did you really envision a Malfoy-curated history section when you seized our home, Potter? Somehow I doubt that. Not specifically, Harry admitted. But I knew the Institute needed to preserve tradition alongside innovation. Who better to oversee that than someone raised to value magical heritage? Before Draco could respond, a silver lynx Patronus materialized between them, Kingsley's messenger. Harry, the minister's voice emerged from the ghostly cat, the situation has escalated. International Confederation representatives arriving at noon. Your presence required immediately. The Patronus dissolved, leaving an uncomfortable silence in its wake. The situation, as Kingsley delicately called it, had been brewing since Harry's successful completion of the Trial of 3. News had spread quickly through magical communities worldwide that a fundamental magical law, the right of conquest, had been altered. The international implications were profound, particularly for regions where magical conflicts were ongoing. The Americans aren't happy, Draco observed, having been present for some of the preliminary discussions. Their entire magical government was established through conquest of native magical traditions. Harry sighed. It's not just America. Magical communities across Africa, Asia, and South America are questioning whether European-imposed magical governance remains legitimate if conquest magic no longer functions. You did rather append a millennium of magical power structures, Draco pointed out, a hint of admiration in his voice. Father would be impressed, if he weren't so busy hating you. The mention of Lucius was a pointed reminder. The elder Malfoy had survived his encounter with the Guardian, but remained greatly diminished, both magically and physically. Reports indicated he had retreated to a property in France, but Harry remained wary. A weakened Lucius might be even more dangerous. Desperate men often took desperate measures. I need to meet with Hermione before the Confederation arrives, Harry said, turning to leave. Will you join the discussions? Draco shook his head. International magical politics exceeds my current mandate. Besides, Mother expects me for lunch to discuss the garden sanctuary. Harry nodded and departed, making his way through corridors that still occasionally surprised him with their transformation. The Manor's magic had fully accepted him after the trial, responding to his intentions and emotions with subtle adjustments to the environment, brightening when he was pleased, the air becoming slightly cooler when he was focused on work. He found Hermione in what they now called the strategy room, formerly Lucius's private study. She was surrounded by floating documents and magical projections of global ley line networks. Kingsley's message found you, she asked without looking up. Just now. How bad is it? Hermione sighed, dismissing several documents with a wave of her wand. The International Confederation is divided. European members generally support the change, they see it as progressive, eliminating a barbaric magical practice. But representatives from regions where magical governance was established through conquest are crying foul. They're afraid they'll lose their authority, Harry concluded. Exactly. The Supreme Mugwump is proposing a special exemption for established governmental magic, but that creates a dangerous precedent for picking and choosing which parts of the compact apply where. Harry dropped into a chair, rubbing his temples. He'd known there would be consequences to changing such a fundamental magical law, but the international scope had exceeded his expectations. And on top of that, Hermione continued, we've detected unusual magical activity in 3 locations globally, Peru, Mongolia, and Ghana. The pattern matches what we saw here before the Guardian manifested. Other Guardians awakening? Possibly. The compact appears to have regional enforcers. Your change to the law may have activated them. A soft chime indicated someone at the door. Creature entered, bowing low. Master Harry, Professor McGonagall has arrived through the flue. She says it is being urgent. Harry exchanged a concerned glance with Hermione. Minerva rarely left Hogwarts during term, and never without good reason. Show her in, creature. The headmistress entered moments later, her emerald robe slightly dusty from travel. Her expression was grave. Potter, Miss Granger, she greeted them. I apologize for arriving unannounced, but there's been a disturbing development at Hogwarts. What's happened? Harry asked, already rising. The castle's magic is changing. Ancient wards are activating spontaneously, passages are rearranging, and the Founder's artifacts are exhibiting unusual properties. She fixed Harry with a penetrating stare. The Slytherin artifacts in particular. The Sorting Hat claims it's responding to a shift in hereditary anchor points, which I believe relates to your recent magical transformation. The Guardian mentioned that the compact affected how family magic functions, Harry said slowly. If I've changed how Slytherin magic works, it makes sense that artifacts tied to Salazar would respond. It's more than response, Potter. It's awakening. McGonagall's voice lowered. Last night, the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets reopened itself. Not just unlocked, the entire chamber appears to be reconfiguring, expanding. Hermione paled. But without the basilisk, something else is stirring down there, McGonagall confirmed. Something older than the basilisk, if the castle's reactions are any indication. Harry felt a familiar tension gathering in his chest, the prelude to danger he'd known so many times before. I'll come immediately. If this is connected to my claim on Slytherin's magic, I may be the only one who can address it. Hermione corrected firmly. We will address it. McGonagall nodded. I've temporarily evacuated the lower levels of the castle as a precaution. The students are confined to upper floors and grounds. What about the Confederation meeting? Harry asked Hermione. I'll contact Kingsley. This takes precedence. Magical disturbances at Hogwarts could affect hundreds of children. She was already sending her Otter Patronus with a message for the minister. We'll use my direct Floo connection to the headmistress's office, Harry decided. The special connection had been established after the war, one of several security measures implemented between key magical locations. As they prepared to depart, Harry felt the manor's magic respond to his concern, a subtle pressure in the air, as if the building itself were offering assistance. The Institute is secure, he told Creature. Maintain all programs as scheduled. If the Confederation representatives arrive before we return, have them escorted to the formal reception room. The house elf bowed. Yes, Master Harry. Creature will be making certain everything continues properly. Minutes later, they emerged from the fireplace in McGonagall's office at Hogwarts. The castle felt different immediately, a vibration in the stone beneath their feet, a tension in the air like the moment before lightning strikes. It's been increasing steadily since yesterday, McGonagall explained, leading them through corridors that seemed dimmer than Harry remembered, despite the daylight streaming through windows. The ghosts have made themselves scarce, and even the portraits seem disturbed. They descended toward the second floor and Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, where the entrance to the chamber had first opened for Harry years ago. Students they passed looked both excited and frightened by the castle's strange behavior, whispering behind their hands as the trio walked by. Professor, called a familiar voice. Neville Longbottom hurried toward them, his teaching robe slightly singed at the edges, evidence of his herbology duties. The venomous tentacula in Greenhouse 3 is acting strangely. All the magical plants are, he broke off, noticing Harry and Hermione. You're here about the disturbances? Yes, Professor Longbottom, McGonagall confirmed. Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin may be able to help us understand what's happening. Neville's eyebrows rose slightly at the formal title, but he nodded. Good. The castle feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for something. That was exactly the sensation, Harry realized, anticipation, not danger. The castle wasn't threatened, it was preparing. They reached Myrtle's bathroom to find the entrance already exposed, the circular array of sinks pulled aside to reveal the pipe that led to the Chamber of Secrets. Unlike Harry's previous visits, the opening now glowed with a soft emerald light, and the air flowing from it felt fresh rather than stale. It opened by itself yesterday evening, McGonagall explained. Miss Warren, Myrtle, was quite beside herself. She claimed she heard hissing before it happened. Parseltongue? Harry asked, surprised. But who, not a person, came a dreamy voice from behind them. Luna Lovegood stood in the doorway, her protuberant eyes taking in the scene with characteristic calm. The castle itself was speaking. I heard it too, though I couldn't understand the words. Professor Lovegood has joined our staff this term as divination teacher, McGonagall explained, though without the skepticism she'd once reserved for that subject. Luna's genuine seer abilities had manifested strongly during the final battle against Voldemort. The castle shouldn't be able to speak Parseltongue, Hermione said, her brow furrowed in concentration. Unless Slytherin left more of himself here than we realized, Harry finished. He approached the opening, feeling a distinct pull from his Slytherin magic. I need to go down. We need to go down, Hermione corrected again. McGonagall looked concerned. I should accompany you. No, Luna said firmly, surprising them all. Only those connected to what sleeps below should enter now. The castle is quite clear about that. She fixed her silvery eyes on Harry. It's been waiting for you, you know. Since you changed the rules. Sometimes Luna's seemingly nonsensical statements contained profound truth. Harry nodded, accepting her insight. Hermione comes with me. The rest of you should maintain the evacuation of the lower levels, just in case. Before anyone could object further, Harry created a magical staircase within the pipe, a trick he'd learned since claiming the Slytherin Lordship, and began the descent. Hermione followed close behind, illuminating the way with her wand. The tunnel leading to the chamber had changed dramatically. Where before there had been rough stone and debris, now smooth walls inlaid with silver serpents guided their path. The shed basilisk skin was gone, and the collapsed section Ron had been trapped behind years ago had been completely repaired. The castle is restoring it, Hermione murmured, examining the fresh stonework. But why now? Because of what I did during the trial, Harry guessed. Changing how Slytherin's magic functions must have affected how the castle interprets its connection to the Founders. They reached the ornate door that marked the chamber's entrance, the circular seal decorated with serpents that had once required Parseltongue to open. Now it stood partially ajar, green light spilling from the crack. Harry pushed it open fully, revealing a chamber transformed. The vast space was no longer dark and flooded, but dry and illuminated by floating orbs of emerald and silver light. The massive statue of Salazar Slytherin remained, but the floor before it had changed. The stone now formed a perfect circle inscribed with runic symbols that glowed with magical energy. And at the center of this circle, hovering a foot above the ground, was a book, ancient, bound in dark leather, emanating power that made the air around it shimmer. What is that? Hermione whispered, instinctively keeping her distance. Slytherin's grimoire, Harry replied, the knowledge coming to him unbidden, information transmitted through his connection to the house magic. His personal spell book and magical journal. I can feel it, calling to me. Harry, be careful, Hermione cautioned as he stepped toward the circle. Magical artifacts from the Founders' era often have powerful protections. But Harry felt no threat from the book, only recognition, as if it had been waiting for him specifically. As he approached the edge of the runic circle, the symbols flared brighter, and a voice spoke, not aloud, but directly into his mind. Heir of conquest now heir of worth, approach and claim your inheritance. Harry glanced back at Hermione. It's inviting me to take the grimoire. Can you hear what it's saying? She asked, her researcher's curiosity overcoming caution. Not exactly here, more like understanding impressions. He turned back to the circle. I think I need to enter alone. Hermione bit her lip but nodded. I'll monitor from here. If anything seems wrong. You'll save me, as usual, Harry finished with a small smile. He stepped into the runic circle, feeling magic wash over him like warm water. The symbols around the perimeter began to rotate, forming new patterns as they moved. The floating grimoire opened, pages turning by themselves until they stopped at an elaborate diagram, a magical genealogy showing Slytherin's line descending through centuries, ending with Tom Riddle's name crossed out and Harry's written beside it in glowing script. The line continued through conquest, now sealed through merit, the impression formed in Harry's mind. What was taken by force is now freely given. The book closed and floated toward him. As his hands closed around it, a surge of knowledge flowed into his consciousness, not specific spells or secrets, but understanding of what the grimoire contained and its significance. It's more than a spell book, he called to Hermione. It's Slytherin's magical legacy, his research, his discoveries about magical bloodlines and inheritance. And it contains something called the Founder's Contingency. As if triggered by his words, the floor beneath the runic circle became transparent, revealing a lower chamber none of them had known existed. Within it stood 3 pedestals, each holding an object, a golden cup, a crystal vial, and what appeared to be a silver wand. Hermione, you need to see this, Harry said, the grimoire now securely in his hands. The runic circle dimmed, its purpose fulfilled. She joined him at the edge of the transparent section, gasping at what lay below. Those aren't just artifacts, they're founder objects. That cup must be Hufflepuff's, the vial looks like something from Ravenclaw's historical descriptions, and that could be Gryffindor's original wand. The founder's contingency, Harry repeated, drawing information from his connection to the grimoire. A fail-safe they created in case their school ever faced destruction. For objects of power, meant to be united if Hogwarts itself was threatened. But why is it activating now? Hermione wondered. Hogwarts isn't in danger. The answer came to Harry through his deepening connection to Slytherin's magic. It's not activation, it's recalibration. When I changed the magical law of conquest during the trial, I affected how founder magic identifies worthy heirs. The castle is adapting to the new paradigm. A rumbling sound emanated from deep within Hogwarts, as if the entire structure was shifting. The transparent floor became solid once more, concealing the artifacts below. "We need to get back upstairs," Hermione urged. That didn't sound good. They hurried through the chamber and up the magical staircase, emerging into Myrtle's bathroom to find McGonagall and Neville waiting anxiously. "The entire castle is restructuring itself," Neville reported immediately. "Staircases are changing permanent positions, new corridors are appearing, and the room of requirement has emerged on every floor." "It's not dangerous," Harry assured them, holding up the grimoire. "It's evolution. The castle is adapting to changes in how founder magic works." McGonagall eyed the ancient book with both reverence and suspicion. Slytherin's personal grimoire. "Potter, such an artifact could contain incredibly dangerous magic." "It does," Harry acknowledged. "But it also contains knowledge we need right now. The founders created a magical contingency system, artifacts of power hidden throughout the castle that respond to worthy heirs in times of need." "And the castle believes this is such a time?" McGonagall asked. "Not exactly. The system is recalibrating to recognize merit rather than conquest as the basis for magical inheritance." Harry felt the grimoire warm in his hands, sharing more information. "The problem is, this recalibration is happening globally. The changes I made to the compact are affecting every magical tradition that was established through conquest, which includes most of the major magical governments worldwide." Hermione's eyes widened. "That's why the International Confederation is in an uproar. They're feeling the magical shifts. And why we're detecting Guardian activity in multiple locations," Harry added. "The regional Guardians are awake and monitoring the transition." A Silver Lynx Patronus burst into the bathroom, Kingsley's messenger returning with urgency. "Harry, Hermione, return immediately. Magical surge detected at the Institute. Unknown entities have manifested within the Nexus chamber." Harry exchanged an alarmed look with Hermione. "The Guardians, they're converging at the manor." "Go," McGonagall urged. "Hogwarts will stabilize itself. Your institute may be in real danger." Harry secured the grimoire inside his robes. "Keep the students away from any new areas that appear in the castle. Some of the founder magic could be volatile during this transition." As they rushed back to McGonagall's office to use the flue, Harry felt a growing certainty that events were accelerating towards some culmination. The Guardian of Balance had accepted his worthiness during the trial, but perhaps others were not so easily convinced. The scene that greeted them upon their return to the Phoenix Institute was controlled chaos. The main hall had been transformed into an emergency response center, with Institute staff guiding students and visitors to secure areas while Aurors established defensive perimeters around the building's core. Ron intercepted them as they emerged from the Floo connection. Finally, 3 entities appeared in the Nexus chamber about 20 minutes ago. "They're not attacking, just waiting." "Guardians," Harry confirmed. "From Peru, Mongolia, and Ghana, if Hermione's detection was correct." "How did they get through the manor's wards?" Hermione asked as they hurried toward the lower levels. "Didn't trigger them," Ron explained. "According to the monitoring charms, they didn't break the wards or bypass them, they existed simultaneously on both sides, then fully manifested inside. They reached the entrance to the Nexus chamber to find Kingsley and two senior Aurors standing guard. The minister looked both relieved and concerned at their arrival. "They've requested you specifically," he informed Harry. "Communication has been challenging. They don't exactly speak, but their intentions are clear enough." "Any hostile actions?" Harry asked. "None. But the magical energy they're emitting is off the charts. If they decided to attack..." Kingsley left the implication hanging. Harry nodded grimly. "I'll speak with them alone." "Absolutely not," Hermione countered immediately. "She's right," Ron agreed. "Whatever these things want, you're not facing them solo." Harry appreciated their loyalty but shook his head. "This is about magical balance and my role in changing it. The guardian I faced during the trial judged me worthy, but these others need to make their own assessment." He squeezed Hermione's hand reassuringly. "I'll be careful." Reluctantly, she stepped back. 10 minutes. "Then we're coming in, invited or not." The silver door to the Nexus chamber opened at Harry's touch. Inside, the crystal walls pulsed with intense magical energy, the currents beneath them flowing in complex new patterns. The central orb glowed with blinding brightness, and around it stood three figures similar to the guardian he had faced in Wales, yet each distinct in appearance. One resembled a jaguar standing on hind legs, its form shifting between animal and human with each movement. Another appeared as a warrior in ancient armor that seemed made from the night sky itself. The third manifested as a being of living flame, its features constantly reforming from the fire. "Guardians of Balance," Harry greeted them, bowing slightly. "I am Harry Potter, Lord of Three Houses." "We know who you are, rewriter of the Compact," came the impression in his mind, seemingly from all three simultaneously. "Your actions have rippled across all magical domains." "I acted to restore balance," Harry replied. "The guardian of this region judged my intentions worthy." One guardian's judgment does not bind all, the jaguar-like being communicated. Each domain must assess the changes separately. Harry straightened, meeting their otherworldly gazes directly. "What do you require of me?" "Understanding," the flame being answered. "You have altered a fundamental magical law without comprehending its full purpose across all domains." The warrior guardian stepped forward, its starry armor shifting like the night sky. The right of conquest served as more than a means of power transfer. In many regions, it prevented endless magical warfare by providing clear resolution to conflicts. This perspective hadn't occurred to Harry. In Britain, the right of conquest had seemed primarily a tool of oppression, a way for powerful wizards to accumulate more power through violence. He hadn't considered its stabilizing effects in regions with different magical traditions. "I didn't intend to destabilize magical governance," Harry acknowledged. "My concern was preventing power accumulation through violence." "Intentions matter less than consequences," the Jaguar Guardian noted. "Already, dormant conflicts reawaken in our domains as ancient claims resurface and conquest magic fails." Harry felt the weight of responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. His well-intentioned change to protect against abuses like Voldemort's might have inadvertently triggered magical conflicts worldwide. "What can be done?" he asked. "The trial is complete. The compact has been rewritten." "Not irrevocably," the Flame Guardian indicated. "The compact exists in balance between all domains. Adjustments can be made through consensus of all guardians." The warrior stepped closer, towering over Harry. "We propose a modification: let conquest magic fail only when used for individual gain, but function when employed for rightful governance established through recognized authority." A compromise, Harry realized. Preventing personal power accumulation while maintaining the stability of magical governments. Yes, all three confirmed. But such modification requires the willing participation of the one who initiated the change. You must enter the compact directly and refine your amendment. Harry considered carefully. The distinction they proposed seemed reasonable, preventing abuse while maintaining stability. But entering the compact itself sounded dangerous. What does that involve? The Jaguar Guardian gestured toward the glowing orb at the chamber's center. Your consciousness must join with the compact's magical framework temporarily. There is risk, few mortal minds can withstand direct contact with such fundamental magic. But it would prevent conflicts from erupting in your regions. It would provide a transition period and clearer guidelines for how conquest magic now functions, the flame being confirmed. Harry thought of the children and families currently in the institute above, Muggleborns just beginning to understand the magical world. How many similar innocents might be caught in magical conflicts if he refused this compromise? I'll do it, he decided. What do I need to do? The three guardians moved to form a triangle around the Nexus orb, indicating that Harry should approach it. Place your hands upon the orb, the warrior instructed. We will guide your consciousness to the compact's core. Focus on the distinction between personal conquest and rightful governance. Visualize the boundary clearly. Harry stepped forward, placing both palms on the crystal sphere. Immediately, his consciousness expanded beyond his physical form, flowing into a vast magical network that connected all ley lines globally. He perceived magical domains stretching across continents, each with its own distinctive resonance yet all part of a greater whole. At the center of this network lay the compact, not a physical document but a magical construct of incredible complexity. Harry could sense Merlin's original design, elegantly balanced to distribute magical power among numerous bloodlines rather than allowing concentration. And there, woven into its structure, was his own recent amendment, a bright thread of new magic declaring that power could no longer pass through conquest. Guided by the Guardians' collective presence, Harry focused on refining this thread. He visualized the distinction they had requested, personal conquest versus governance conquest. The thread began to split, separating into dual aspects, one rejecting individual power accumulation through violence, the other allowing for the continuation of established magical governments even if their authority had originally derived from conquest. The work was delicate and exhausting. Each adjustment rippled through the entire compact, requiring further refinements to maintain balance. Harry lost all sense of physical time, his consciousness fully absorbed in the intricate magical manipulation. Finally, the modification stabilized. Harry began to withdraw his awareness, preparing to return to his physical form, when he sensed another presence within the compact, familiar yet distorted, like a reflection in troubled water. Potter, it hissed, the impression forming in his expanded consciousness. You continue to meddle in forces beyond your understanding. Somehow, impossibly, Lucius Malfoy had accessed the compact's framework. Harry's shock nearly disrupted his connection to the orb. How are you here? He demanded, his thoughts projecting into the magical construct. The Guardian's touch diminished my magic but opened other pathways, Lucius's presence replied. I've been watching you, learning. The Selwyn artifacts provided the means to access the compact during its recalibration. Harry sensed malevolent intent forming around Lucius's presence, not a specific attack, but a corruption beginning to spread through the newly modified thread. Stop! Harry warned. Tampering with the compact could destabilize magic itself. Or reshape it to its proper form, Lucius countered. If I cannot reclaim what was mine through conquest, I will ensure no one benefits from its protection. The corruption accelerated, threatening to unravel Harry's careful modifications. The Guardians' presences surged forward, attempting to isolate the disturbance, but Lucius had embedded himself too deeply into the process. Harry made a split-second decision. Rather than fighting Lucius directly within the compact, he channeled his combined Potter-Black-Slytherin magic to reinforce the boundaries he'd established. As Lucius attempted to corrupt the distinction between personal and governance conquest, Harry crystallized it, making the boundary absolute and unbreakable. The magical backlash was immediate and severe. Lucius's presence screamed in rage as it was ejected from the compact, while Harry felt his consciousness being pulled in multiple directions. The Guardians moved to stabilize his connection, but the damage was done, he had overcommitted his magical energy to the reinforcement. "Return to your physical form now," the Jaguar Guardian urged. "We will complete the stabilization." With tremendous effort, Harry pulled his consciousness back through the Nexus Orb, feeling as though he were swimming against a powerful current. As his awareness returned to his body, pain lanced through every nerve, the consequence of such direct interaction with fundamental magic. He collapsed as the connection broke, dimly aware of the chamber door bursting open and Hermione rushing toward him. The three guardians still surrounded the orb, their forms now pulsing in rhythm with the stabilizing magic. "Harry!" Hermione cradled his head, her face tight with worry. "What happened?" "Lucius," he managed to whisper through the pain. "Tried to corrupt the compact. Stopped him, but he has succeeded in the modification," the Flame Guardian announced to everyone in the chamber. "But at great personal cost. The magic he expended to counter Malfoy's interference has depleted his core significantly." Ron had entered with Hermione and knelt beside his friend, face pale with concern. "What does that mean? Is he dying?" "Not dying," the Warrior Guardian clarified. "But diminished. The three house magics he claimed now strain to sustain themselves within a vessel weakened by the encounter." Hermione's grip on Harry tightened. "There must be something we can do." The Jaguar Guardian approached, its form shifting between animal and human with each step. "There is one possibility. The houses could be separated once more, distributed among worthy heirs of his choosing. This would relieve the strain and allow his core to recover." "Give up the lordships?" Harry asked weakly, trying to sit up despite the pain. "Not surrender, but share," the flame being corrected. "The compact you have modified now favors distribution through merit rather than conquest. You could designate inheritors for two houses, retaining your birthright." Kingsley and Bill Weasley had joined them in the chamber, listening intently to this exchange. "Harry, consider this carefully," the minister advised. "Your health must come first, but this decision will have lasting implications." Despite the pain clouding his thoughts, Harry recognized the symmetry of the situation. The Guardian of Balance had offered him three choices during the trial of three: relinquish two lordships, divide his power among worthy heirs, or prove his worthiness through trials. He had chosen the trials and succeeded, but Lucius's interference had changed the equation. "I need to think," he said, stronger now as the initial shock faded. "This isn't a decision to make in haste. The strain will increase," warned the Warrior Guardian. "Your magical core cannot sustain three houses indefinitely in its current state." "Then I'll decide quickly, but not this moment." Harry managed to stand with Ron and Hermione's assistance. "Thank you for helping modify the compact. I trust the changes will help stabilize your domains." The three guardians conferred silently, then the Jaguar spoke for them all: "The modification is acceptable. Personal conquest magic remains nullified, while governance structures retain stability. We will return to our domains and monitor the transition. Choose your inheritors wisely, Harry Potter," the flame being added. "The balance you have worked to establish depends upon it." With that, the three guardians dissolved into pure magical energy, flowing back into the Nexus Orb and presumably returning to their respective regions through the ley line network. As they left the chamber, Harry leaned heavily on his friends, each step requiring concentrated effort. His magical core, usually a confident presence within him, now felt fragile and overtaxed. "Infirmary, now," Hermione insisted, brooking no argument. The Institute's medical wing had been established under the guidance of Madame Pomfrey, combining traditional healing magic with Muggle medical innovations. The head healer, a calm witch named Althea Jones, immediately ordered Harry onto a diagnostic bed. Severe magical depletion, she confirmed after casting several examination spells. "Your core is strained to its limits, Lord Potter-Black-Slytherin. Whatever you did in that chamber nearly burned out your magical capacity entirely. Can it recover?" Hermione asked, not bothering to hide her concern. "With complete magical rest, perhaps. No spellcasting whatsoever for at least a month. Healer Jones frowned. But there's an underlying issue. Your core is trying to sustain connections to 3 distinct magical lineages simultaneously. It's like trying to power 3 houses with electricity meant for 1. The Guardians suggested distributing 2 of the houses to chosen heirs, Kingsley noted. Would that allow full recovery? Almost certainly, Jones confirmed. The diagnostic shows your birth magic, Potter, is most deeply integrated with your core. Retaining that while transferring the others would likely permit complete healing. Harry closed his eyes, considering his options. The Lordships had never been about power for him, but about responsibility and the opportunity to create positive change. The Institute was established now, its work progressing well. Perhaps it was time for the next phase. I need parchment, a dictation quill, and privacy with my closest advisors, he requested. Once the others had left, Harry addressed the small group remaining, Hermione, Ron, Kingsley, and, somewhat to everyone's surprise, he asked for Draco to join them as well. When they were all assembled, Harry sat up despite Hermione's protests. I've decided to distribute the Black and Slytherin Lordships, he announced. But I want to do it properly, with clear conditions and purpose. Are you certain? Hermione asked. Perhaps with rest, the strain isn't lessening, Harry interrupted gently. I can feel it, like trying to contain too much magic in too small a space. And honestly, maybe this is how it should be. 3 lordships in one person creates an imbalance, regardless of intentions. Who will you choose? Ron asked, the practical question that was on everyone's mind. Harry smiled slightly. For the House of Black, the choice is clear. He looked at the dictation quill, which began writing as he spoke formally. I, Harry James Potter, Lord of the most ancient and noble House of Black by rightful inheritance from Sirius Black, do hereby designate Edward Remus Lupin as my heir to the Black Lordship, to be held in trust until his 17th birthday, with Andromeda Tonks née Black serving as regent. The Black seat on the Wisengamot shall be voted according to a council comprising Andromeda Tonks, Hermione Granger, and myself until Edward comes of age. The quill finished with a flourish, the magic in the document glowing briefly as it recognized his authority to make such a designation. Teddy is Remus and Tonks's son, with black blood through his grandmother Andromeda, Harry explained to Draco, who looked surprised. Sirius would have wanted the Black legacy to support his cousin's grandson. And the Slytherin Lordship? Kingsley prompted. Here, Harry paused, his gaze moving to Draco. This one is more complicated. The Slytherin magic came to me through conquest, but I've changed that law. Now it must pass through merit and worthiness. Draco straightened. Surely you're not suggesting, I am, Harry confirmed. Despite our history, you've demonstrated something I respect enormously over these past months, the ability to grow beyond your upbringing and reconsider deeply held beliefs. Potter, this is absurd, Draco protested, though without his former malice. I was on the wrong side of the war. My family served the Dark Lord. And yet here you are, helping build something that contradicts everything you were raised to believe. Harry gestured for the quill, which positioned itself for his next declaration. I, Harry James Potter, Lord of the most ancient and noble House of Slytherin by right of conquest transmuted to merit, do hereby designate Draco Lucius Malfoy as my heir to the Slytherin Lordship, conditional upon the following, that he continue his work preserving valuable magical traditions while rejecting blood supremacy, that he maintain the Malfoy wing of the Phoenix Institute as a center for cultural heritage, and that he swear a magical oath never to use Slytherin's magic for purposes of discrimination or harm against any magical being based on their ancestry. The document glowed green as the magic recognized his intent, but remained incomplete, awaiting Draco's acceptance of the conditions. The room had gone utterly silent. Ron looked thunderstruck, Kingsley thoughtful, and Hermione. Hermione was watching Harry with a profound expression that mingled pride, concern, and something deeper. Why? Draco finally asked, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. After everything my family has done to yours? Because breaking cycles of hatred matters more than holding grudges, Harry replied simply. And because Slytherin House deserves a lord who values both tradition and progress, someone who understands its flaws but also its potential. My father will disown me if I accept, Draco noted, though his tone suggested this might not be the deterrent it once would have been. Possibly, Harry acknowledged. Though in his current state, I'm not sure he retains the magical authority to do so. Besides, as Lord Slytherin, you would hardly need the Malfoy name to maintain your position in society. Draco paced the small infirmary room, internal conflict evident in his expression. The conditions you've set, they go against everything I was raised to believe. But not everything you've come to believe, Harry countered. I've watched you these past months, Draco. You've changed, not completely, not perfectly, but genuinely. That's why you're worthy. After what seemed an eternity, Draco returned to stand before the floating parchment. If I accept, what becomes of the Slytherin seat on the Wizengamot? It's yours to vote as you see fit, Harry replied. I expect we'll disagree on many issues. That's healthy for governance. Draco took a deep breath, then nodded once, sharply. I accept the conditions and the responsibility. Then place your hand beside mine on the parchment and state your acceptance formally. As their hands touched the document simultaneously, Harry felt the Slytherin magic within him respond, not fighting the transfer but recognizing the rightness of it. This wasn't surrender but evolution. I, Draco Lucius Malfoy, accept the lordship of the most ancient and noble house of Slytherin under the conditions specified, and swear upon my magic to uphold these requirements faithfully. The document flared with emerald light, and Harry felt a substantial portion of his magical burden lift as the Slytherin family magic transferred to Draco. Not all of it, a connection remained, like a thread connecting teacher to student, but the primary responsibility had shifted. Draco gasped at the influx of new magic, his gray eyes momentarily flashing green before returning to normal. That's extraordinary. It will take time to fully integrate, Harry advised, already feeling stronger as his core adjusted to the reduced burden. The grimoire will help. He indicated Slytherin's book, which he'd placed beside the bed. It belongs with the lord of the house now. Kingsley observed the transfer with diplomatic neutrality, though his raised eyebrows betrayed his surprise at Harry's choice. The Wizengamot will need to be notified of these transfers. It will cause quite a stir. Let it, Harry said with a slight smile. Change always does. After finalizing the documents and making arrangements for Andromeda to be informed about Teddy's inheritance, the others left Harry to rest, except Hermione, who insisted on staying. That was either the wisest or the most reckless decision you've ever made, she told him once they were alone, sitting beside his bed. Possibly both. It feels right, Harry said simply. My core is already responding, the pressure is significantly reduced. And Teddy deserves his heritage through his grandmother. As for Draco, you've given him a chance at redemption, Hermione finished. And positioned a potential ally in a place of influence. Potential being the operative word, Harry acknowledged with a chuckle. I don't expect him to vote with us on everything. But having someone who understands both traditional and progressive perspectives in a position of authority could be valuable. Hermione took his hand, her expression serious. How are you really feeling? And don't downplay it, I saw what happened in that chamber. Like I've run a magical marathon, Harry admitted. Everything aches, and my core feels tender. But also lighter, more balanced. The Potter magic alone fits me better than all three combined. Healer Jones wants you on complete magical rest for at least 2 weeks, Hermione informed him. Which means I'll be handling the Institute's operations while you recover. You already handle most of them anyway, Harry pointed out with a smile. True, but now I'll have to deal with Lord Slytherin as a colleague rather than an employee. Her tone was light, but Harry detected genuine concern. Draco will honor his oath, Harry assured her. The magic itself will hold him to it. And I think you'll find him a more reasonable partner than you expect. Hermione didn't look entirely convinced, but she nodded. Rest now. The International Confederation representatives have been rescheduled for next week, after the news of your magical injury spread. How diplomatic of them, Harry murmured, his eyelids growing heavy as magical exhaustion claimed its due. Hermione leaned forward and kissed his forehead gently. Sleep. I'll be here when you wake up. As Harry drifted into restorative sleep, his last conscious thoughts were of balance, not just magical balance between lordships and bloodlines, but the balance he was finding in his own life. The burden of too much power had nearly broken him, while the distribution of that power had begun healing him. There was a lesson there, one that extended beyond his personal situation to the wizarding world at large. Perhaps that had been the Guardian's true purpose all along. The Great Hall of Hogwarts was filled to capacity, students and staff gathered for what Headmistress McGonagall had described only as historically significant announcement. At the front of the hall stood three figures that represented a remarkable shift in wizarding politics: Harry Potter in formal Potter family robes of deep red, Andromeda Tonks holding young Teddy Lupin, both in the silver-trimmed black of the House of Black, and most surprisingly to many, Draco Malfoy in the emerald regalia of Slytherin. 6 weeks had passed since Harry's encounter with the International Guardians and his subsequent distribution of 2 lordships. His recovery had progressed well, though Healer Jones warned that his magical core would always bear some scars from the experience. The compromise modification to the compact had stabilized magical governance worldwide, preventing the conflicts the Guardians had feared while maintaining the ban on personal power accumulation through conquest. Today marked the formal public acknowledgement of the lordship transfers, conducted at Hogwarts to symbolize the connection to the founders and to education, the foundation of the future they were building. Headmistress McGonagall called for attention, her voice carrying easily through the vast hall. Today we witness a historic recalibration of magical authority in Britain. For the first time in centuries, the 3 lordships of Potter, Black, and Slytherin will be publicly confirmed in accordance with the new interpretation of magical inheritance law. She gestured to Kingsley Shacklebolt, who stepped forward in his capacity as both minister and witness to the original transfers. Magic itself has confirmed these designations, Kingsley announced, but today we formalize them before the community. Lord Harry James Potter retains his birthright as head of the ancient and noble House of Potter. Lady Andromeda Tonks serves as regent for Lord Edward Remus Lupin, heir to the most ancient and noble House of Black until his majority. And Lord Draco Lucius Malfoy assumes the lordship of the most ancient and noble House of Slytherin by designation and merit. A murmur ran through the assembled students and guests. The elevation of Draco Malfoy to a founder's lordship remained controversial, despite his oath and his increasingly visible work at the Phoenix Institute. Harry stepped forward, his voice steady and confident. 6 months ago, I claimed 3 lordships through different means: birth, bequest, and conquest. That concentration of power, though not sought for personal gain, created an imbalance in our magical world. Today, we correct that imbalance through proper distribution, ensuring that family magic flows where it belongs and that power remains checked by responsibility. 7-year-old Teddy Lupin, his hair shifting between black and silver in response to the occasion's excitement, beamed up at his godfather. Andromeda spoke on his behalf, her aristocratic black features dignified despite the emotion evident in her voice. The House of Black accepts this trust with gratitude and commitment to reform. What was once a family known for darkness will become a force for integration and healing, honoring the sacrifice of my daughter Nymphadora and her husband Remus, and the courage of my cousin Sirius. Then it was Draco's turn. He stepped forward, looking both humbled and determined, a striking change from the arrogant boy he had once been. The House of Slytherin accepts this responsibility with full acknowledgement of its complex legacy. Ambition and cunning are not inherently dark traits, but tools that can build as easily as destroy. I pledge to restore Salazar's true values, magical innovation, self-reliance, and determined protection of our world, while rejecting the distortions of blood supremacy that have damaged his house's reputation. As he spoke, something remarkable happened. The enchanted ceiling of the Great Hall, which normally reflected the sky outside, briefly shifted to display the Hogwarts crest. For a moment, The Slytherin serpent seemed to glow more brightly, as if acknowledging its lord's commitment. After the formal declarations, the gathering transitioned to a reception where students could meet the three lords and ask questions. Harry watched with approval as Draco handled challenging inquiries from skeptical Gryffindors with patience rather than defensiveness, explaining his vision for preserving valuable traditions while discarding harmful ones. "He's doing better than I expected," Hermione commented, joining Harry at the edge of the hall. 3 different Slytherin students have approached him about mentorship opportunities at the Institute. "The house needs positive leadership," Harry replied. "For too long, the choice for ambitious students has seemed to be between Voldemort's way or rejection of their house values entirely. Draco offers a middle path." Hermione slipped her hand into his. "And how are you feeling?" "Magically, I mean." "Stronger every day," Harry assured her. "The Potter magic has fully reintegrated now that it doesn't have to compete with 2 other family lines. Healer Jones says I might be able to resume normal spellcasting next week." "Just in time for the Wisengamot vote on the Magical Citizenship Act," Hermione noted. "Your first major legislative push as simply Lord Potter. The act would grant full citizenship rights to all sentient magical beings, eliminating the classification system that had relegated creatures like house elves, goblins, and centaurs to lesser legal status. It was controversial but gaining support, particularly with the Black seat now committed to progressive causes and, surprisingly, with tentative backing from the Slytherin seat under certain conditions that Draco had negotiated to address traditional concerns." "Speaking of legislation," Harry said, steering Hermione toward a quieter corner, "there's something I've been wanting to discuss with you." "That sounds ominous," she teased, though her expression remained curious. "Not ominous, just significant." Harry took both her hands in his. "These past months have shown me what really matters, not titles or power, but people and purpose. You've been not just my support but my partner in everything." Hermione's eyes widened slightly. "Harry. I'm not proposing," he clarified quickly, earning a laugh from her. "Not yet, anyway. But I am proposing something else." He retrieved a small velvet box from his robes. "This belonged to my grandmother." Inside was not an engagement ring but a golden key, small and intricately carved with the Potter family crest. "This opens the Potter family vault at Gringotts," Harry explained. "Not the trust vault I used during school, but the main family repository. I want you to have access, not just to the gold, but to the knowledge, the artifacts, the history." Hermione stared at the key. "Harry, this is an enormous gesture in pure-blood tradition. It's tantamount to declaring me your partner," Harry finished. "In every sense that matters. The magical, the practical, and the personal." She closed her hand around the key, visibly moved. "I accept," she said softly. "Though I'm more interested in the ancient texts than the Galleons." "I never doubted that for a moment," Harry replied with a grin, leaning in to kiss her. Their moment was interrupted by the arrival of Ron, who had been promoted to senior Auror following his role in securing the Institute during recent events. "Sorry to break up the romance," he said, not looking particularly sorry, "but there's a situation you both should know about." He lowered his voice. "Lucius Malfoy has been found." Harry immediately tensed. "Found? Where?" "France, near their property in Provence." "But that's not the significant part." Ron glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. "He's completely lost his magic. Not diminished like we thought, gone entirely. The French magical authorities say he registers as a muggle now." Hermione gasped. "That's impossible. Adult wizards don't just lose their magic completely. They do if they violate a fundamental magical oath," Harry said quietly, remembering Lucius's attempt to corrupt the compact. "He tried to manipulate the most basic magical law and it rejected him utterly." "Draco doesn't know yet," Ron added. "The French ministry contacted Kingsley directly, given the sensitivity." "I'll tell him," Harry decided. "After the ceremony." He deserves to hear it privately. As the reception continued, Harry found himself reflecting on the symmetry of recent events. Lucius had lost everything in his vengeful pursuit of power, while Draco had gained a new beginning by accepting change. Harry himself had discovered that giving up power could be as significant as claiming it. Later that evening, after the formalities concluded, Harry stood on the astronomy tower with Hermione and Ron, gazing out over the Hogwarts grounds. The castle had finally stabilized after weeks of magical readjustment, though several new rooms and passageways remained as permanent additions, including a remarkable Hall of Founders beneath the Great Hall, where the artifacts Harry had glimpsed in the chamber now resided. It's strange to think how much has changed since that day at Gringotts, Harry mused. When Griphook first told me about the 3 lordships, I just wanted a normal life. Ron snorted. Mate, you wouldn't recognize a normal life if it introduced itself with formal letterhead. Probably true, Harry acknowledged with a laugh. But I think I've found something better than normal. Something meaningful. Hermione leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. The Institute is thriving. 10 more Muggle-born families enrolled this week, and the cultural preservation projects are drawing interest from traditional families who would never have engaged with us otherwise. And the Wisingamot is actually functioning as a deliberative body rather than a pure-blood social club, Ron added. Dad says it's the most productive session in 50 years. Harry nodded, appreciating their assessments but thinking of something more personal. The burden of 3 lordships had nearly broken him, but distributing that power had created connections and possibilities far more valuable than concentrated authority. Teddy would grow up knowing his black heritage without its darker aspects. Draco had a path to redemption that honored his strengths while challenging his prejudices. And Harry himself had found his true place, not as a triple lord but as a builder, creating institutions that would outlast him. So what's next? Ron asked, always focused on the next adventure. Harry smiled, looking out toward the horizon where the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant hues. Next, we keep building. The Institute, the legislative reforms, the bridge between magical traditions and innovations. He glanced at Hermione. And perhaps some more personal projects as well. She smiled back, understanding his meaning. One step at a time. We have plenty of those ahead. As darkness fell over Hogwarts, the castle windows illuminated one by one, creating a tapestry of light against the stone. From this height, Harry could see not just the school but Hogsmeade Village beyond, and in the far distance, the faint magical glow that marked the Phoenix Institute. 3 centers of magical learning and community, each representing a different aspect of their world, Hogwarts with its ancient traditions, Hogsmeade with its everyday magical life, and the Institute with its bridge to the future. Balance, at last, in all things. Ready to head back? Hermione asked as the evening chill deepened. Harry nodded, taking one last look at the vista before him. Yes, he said simply. I'm ready. Together, the 3 friends descended from the tower, leaving behind the breathtaking view but carrying with them the perspective it had offered, of a wizarding world transformed not through conquest or domination, but through balance, cooperation, and the courage to change. In the depths of what had once been Malfoy Manor, now the thriving Phoenix Institute, the Nexus orb glowed with steady, harmonious light. The magical currents beneath the building flowed in patterns unseen for centuries, balanced, distributed, yet interconnected. And deep within the orb's crystal structure, a faint impression remained, the guardian of balance, dormant but watchful, its purpose fulfilled for this generation. Until the next time a wizard dared to change the rules. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.